Today, I'm talking about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, and we're going to figure out if it rose to the challenge or if it makes you just kind of want to skywalk away. Alright, so Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker. So, what did I think? Well, I don't know, man. It was excellent. I know a lot of people are gonna be upset. They're gonna complain and whine like they did with everything. Um, I guess complete honesty here, I actually was one of the people that enjoyed The Last Jedi. It I thought was really good. It was cool. I liked the cinematography. I liked the story. It was different, and yeah. But this movie, it does a little bit of what the past did, which is fine. I mean, it was very much in the spirit of kind of like Return of the Jedi, which is weird. This trilogy kind of mirrored the original trilogy, um, but there was a lot in this movie that was unique and different, and the Force powers were bigger, and there were things on screen that we had been waiting years, just I mean decades to see. Um, there were some moments that were just sad and emotional and hit you in the gut, and then there were some scenes that probably should have been a little bit more emotional, but due to the slight pacing issues, they didn't quite build or feel like they paid off, but they were still good. They just could have been better, which is really my only knock on the movie, is that there's so much in this movie that the pacing is a little off at times, and it causes it to just like feel rushed. But that, I mean, it's 2.5 hours, and once the movie starts, it's going like immediately. Like they're within like 30 seconds of the movie being opened. I mean, there's spoilers. There's spoilers in the title like scroll. Like it's insane. Like you immediately are just put into like the middle of an adventure, basically, for the light side and the dark side. Like there's a lot going on. Um, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought like the directions it took were cool and interesting. They paid off. There were a lot of unexpected scenes that were nice to see. A lot of familiar faces. Some, I mean, expected and unexpected. There were a lot of like things that, yeah, just kind of caught me off. I think they did really well with the scenes that they had with Leia. They used old footage from when they filmed The Force Awakens, and it fits really, really well. They made really good use of it. It feels like it fit in this movie. It wasn't like they just kind of forced it, though they kind of did, but at the same time, it really meshed well. And Leia's arc through this was really cool. Obviously, we would have liked to have seen like the original plans, but it's not what we got. And what we did get, I think, was really good and did her justice as much as they could have. Um, yeah, I definitely recommend going to see it. It's so good. It is a fun movie. It's funny and emotional and just a cool sci-fi fantasy movie that they just do a lot of crazy, bold things, and I think everyone would be doing themselves a favor if they definitely went to go see it. It's so good, uh, especially. I mean, this wraps up the whole 9 movie arc. So yeah, go see it. It's so good. I'm gonna see it again tomorrow. So yeah, I'm excited. I'll see you guys out there.
How's it going, everyone? Today I'm going to be talking about A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and we're going to talk about if this movie's beautiful or if it's going to make you want to move to a new neighborhood. Alright, everyone, welcome back to Featured Films. My name is Joe. Any kind of liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing the videos, anything like that is greatly appreciated. Let me know, what we're doing right here, what we can fix. I had some people tell me last video that there were some audio issues. Hopefully those are kind of corrected here. Let me know. I've been doing my best to check on things. Going to be putting up some stuff in the background here because, as you can see, it's a little blank here behind me. Yeah, but let's get into this movie. So, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is a movie based around Mr. Rogers and an interview that was going to be done for a magazine. In the movie, the writer assigned to it, his name is Lloyd Vogel, and he's going to be critiquing and writing this article. And initially, it's supposed to just be like a 400-word little kind of blip in an article with a bunch of other famous people and heroes. He ends up Lloyd ends up kind of getting attached to this and finds Mr. Rogers to be such a weird character just because is genuinely just so nice, and he just can't believe that he's just a nice, genuine person. And so he's kind of known to be a bit of a rough writer and very critical, and so he's trying to find all this deep, dark dirt on Mr. Rogers, and in typical Mr. Rogers fashion, he's just genuinely nice, and just kind of wins over anyone that kind of comes into contact with him. And so, yeah, Tom Hanks in this movie is stellar. Within minutes, like, you see Tom Hanks come on screen, he will be doing the typical Mr. Rogers entrance, and he's putting on the cardigan and the shoes and everything, and singing a little song, and Tom Hanks fades away, and he just becomes Mr. Rogers. And it's like, Tom Hanks is a good actor, but this performance was mind-blowing. And just from mannerisms to speech to just everything, he is phenomenal in this. I honestly think this, as of right now, it's December 23rd. So as of December 23rd, this movie is my candidate for Best Picture of the Year. And Tom Hanks definitely deserves an Oscar for this performance. Matthew Rhys, the other lead, he does a stellar job as well. You see a lot of transformation in him. There's a lot of emotional turmoil and things that are from his past that haunt him. He has just a bad history with his father, which is greatly, deeply explored in this, and Mr. Rogers just kind of talks to him, and they go back and forth, Lloyd and Fred, and they are just kind of sharing in things, and the depth you see of both characters is phenomenal. the score, the tone, everything in this movie is just really deep and touching and moving. And I think watching it, I think I cried like 3 or 4 times. Like, it's a really good movie. Um, I definitely recommend this one. It is worth it. It is so good. I want to see it again. I just haven't made the time to do so, partly because I've been watching so many other movies, and also because, I mean, holidays, we've got all kinds of family stuff and friends and all that. But when I get a chance, I'm definitely checking this one out because it is a masterclass in acting. It's a masterclass in just directing and editing. They do cool little things, like transitions from scenes are done as the like little like cardboard like buildings and stuff, and like it's all done as if it was a Mr. Rogers episode. From the background, you'll see like little planes, and they'll be flying, but they're on strings. You can clearly tell, and like they move like they're like made of like, I don't know, like they're a model or they're just made of like cardboard or something, and they're just being pulled along like it was a PBS show, like it was, you know, Mr. Rogers' show. And it's the amount of detail and love for Mr. Rogers in this movie shows through in every aspect. If you liked Mr. Rogers, even if you didn't like Mr. Rogers, and you like want to get to know more about him, you want to see who this character was, like was he genuinely who he, you know, says, like that's all very much explored in this movie, and it's so good. You're gonna go into it, and you'll go in one way, and you're gonna come out changed. Like you're gonna want to just immediately do better. Like it's that powerful of a movie. It's so good, and yeah, definitely go check it out. Thank you again for tuning in, everyone. I greatly appreciate it. Please like, comment, subscribe. Get the word out. I'm going to be trying to do as many of these videos as possible. I see a new movie at least once a week, and going to be trying to keep up to date with all the, you know, Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus shows, and do reviews for those. I probably won't do, you know, whole like episode to episode, but I figure I'll recap the season, give people a kind of general idea. Well, I guess a review of the season, not a recap. Don't want to have spoilers and things, but definitely want to have more stuff there, get word out on good shows, and give my opinion. Alright, you guys remember to take care of each other, and I'll see you soon. Today I'm talking about Uncut Gems, and we're going to find out if this is a diamond in the rough, or if Adam Sandler should cut it out. Alright, so Uncut Gems is a weird movie. It's good. Like, don't get me wrong, it's good, but it is stressful. Like, I got out of that movie, my back was so tense. It is crazy. It's been a while since I've been to a movie that has had me like that, and it's not like too overly, I guess, like action packed or anything. It's just so intense. This guy's life, Adam Sandler's character, he is just so unfortunate. Like he just has so much that I guess just happens to him. It is crazy. But yeah, his character, Howie or Howard, he is a Jewish jeweler in New York who has a serious gambling problem. Like he's betting tens of thousands of dollars. He owes all kinds of different people, and they're all kind of coming to collect at the same time. And he's basically borrowing money from one person to pay off another, and he's kind of skimming from his jeweling business to go into all this, and it's nuts. But the cast is excellent. I mean, it's got Kevin Garnett, It's got Adina Menzel. It has The Weeknd. It has Eric Bogosian, and obviously Adam Sandler. And then who else? Oh, Julia Fox was in it. And yeah, it's good. Um, Kevin Garnett is a weird choice, but he actually plays like a big role in this movie and does excellent. I mean, he's playing himself, and Adam Sandler's character Howard is betting on several different uh, Celtics games, and Kevin Garnett was on the team at the time, and so it's kind of in that time frame, and he just keeps getting into trouble, and yeah, the writers and directors, the Safdie brothers, they created an excellent movie, and Adam Sandler has a really stellar performance. I mean, it's not a comedy; it's got kind of dark comedy moments in it, to where like just crazy, unfortunate, awful things are happening, but in a kind of hilarious way. Um, and yeah, it's just you have to see it. If you're into just a good movie, I mean, this is that, but I'd maybe wait for it to show up on like a streaming service or Redbox or something like that. It's definitely not for everyone to go out to the theater and see. It is a little artsy. It's a little I wouldn't say slow. It's just it's not your typical like high pace movie to where everyone's going to want to go out. They'll have a good time. Like I said, it's a stressful movie. It will make you just need to go relax afterwards. Like you're going to want to go see a different movie to calm down. It's but it's good. It has surprising twists. It's got a very interesting little world that they create. But I I did enjoy it. I was surprised by Adam Sandler's performance. I had heard it was really good, and so when I went into the movie, I was kind of expecting, I guess, but it was still really, really good. Obviously, he's kind of known, at least nowadays, for kind of putting out kind of movies, kind of, at best, and usually pretty crappy, but, you know, maybe he should stay away from comedies because this role for him, this like serious drama, was his best role in at least a decade. So, yeah, I would definitely check it out if you're kind of a film buff, if you want to, or even if you're like kind of into like mafia esque kind of movies. This is a good movie in a kind of, I guess it's kind of adjacent to that. It's not quite mafia, but he is kind of borrowing from loan sharks and gets into trouble with some people. So, but he's not himself part of a mafia. He just kind of, yeah, has a crazy life that they are very, very much in his life. Like I said, definitely go check it out if you're into that type of movie, and see it in a, when it comes to like Redbox or if it's on Netflix or something like that. Watch it when it comes there. It, it, you'd probably be more upset if you spent money on it because it's a little bit of a odd movie and strange. It starts out weird and ends weird. Has a bit of a crazy ending because obviously this whole movie's crazy and stressful. But yeah, everything in this movie was good. Thank you again for tuning in. I appreciate everyone who has been, watching these videos. Any kind of likes, comments, subscribing, anything like that is greatly appreciated. Subscribing definitely helps out the most. It is important right now. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so I'm still a little small. building up. So definitely everyone's help is greatly appreciated. And thank you again. You guys have a great day. Beware, because today's video contains spoilers. I'm talking about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, and we're going to do a deep dive. Let's get into it. Alright, again, last warning, there will be spoilers. I'm going to be talking about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. So if you don't want to be spoiled, go ahead, get out of here. I've got a spoiler-free review that you can actually go ahead and watch, and I will post the link up here. Yeah. Alright. So, first off, the movie starts, the Star Wars title scroll comes through, and boom, immediately we're told the Emperor lives. The dead speak. Well, go on to find out, there is an audio recording that's sent out. Everyone hears the voice of the Emperor. Kylo is pissed. He's out there raging, which I loved how they put that in there, that he was raging, because then it just, boom, opens up. He's going into, there's ships that fly into Mustafar, cuts to him on Mustafar, just wrecking people. And then he finds a Sith Wayfinder, hooks it up to his ship, follows the Wayfinder, gets to the, the destination. Turns out that it is Malachor. It's the Sith, home planet, I guess. And Kylo goes in there, and immediately he hears Palpatine's voice, and it turns out it's true. Palpatine lives. Well, he even states himself he did die, but they brought him back to life with some science and some Sith wizardry, and yeah, he's back. He's frail and basically all emaciated and blind, and he's got these super skeleton looking fingers, and he's hooked up to machines. He's barely alive at all. Basically tells Kylo, boom, gonna get in there. If you listen to me, you'll get all these ships. So yeah, we do that, and it's awesome. It just immediately, you're just put into it. You're like, oh man, things are real. The Emperor's back. This dude, the king badass of badasses for 6 other movies, is all of a sudden, turns out he's been there the whole time. He was behind Snoke. He was the one feeding Kylo just visions and stuff, and communicating with him as Vader. And yeah, so Kylo decides to kind of go along with it. He fixes up his helmet, gets that cool little red scarring, and welds it together. We end up showing kind of by inferred, whenever they're talking about the spy that's in the First Order, they immediately point out that it's Hux. Hux is the spy, and he's kind of trying to throw Kylo under the bus. Another general, General Pride, basically discovers it. He kind of had suspicions the whole time, and then just point blank shoots Hux, kills him, gets rid of him, gone. Then we see clips of Rey. She is training. She's meditating and floating, got rocks all around her, which is kind of cool. Then she is talking to Leia, and then runs a little obstacle course. Kylo's kind of messing with her and trying to get inside of her head, send her visions, and just kind of throw everything off. He's trying to tamper with her, get her pissed, and turn her to the dark side. Which, was pretty cool. We saw them kind of interacting back and forth. They are in this movie. They talk about them being a dyad in the Force, which means that there's two people that are so strongly connected through the Force that basically they can communicate at almost any time. They can, as we've seen in the movie, they can swap items. Like in The Last Jedi, Kylo gets water on him. In this movie, in The Rise of Skywalker, we see where he snatches a necklace off of Rey's neck. He then also, they have a really freaking cool, like, lightsaber battle through the Force. Like, they're both in two different locations, but having a single lightsaber fight, which was badass. It looked awesome. They were switching back and forth. Whenever they were breaking stuff on one thing, bits and pieces of it were falling through to the other area. And that's end up how Kylo ends up locating Rey at one point whenever she's on his Star Destroyer. Then throughout all this, we come across a couple different things. There's cool stuff with some Sith artifacts, and we have Sith related and connected people. Through it, though, we do see Finn actually has something he wants to tell Rey. They're sinking in what I think he at the time thought was like quicksand or something, and he's yelling, oh, hey, Rey, I never got to tell you, and then they sink. Well, they ask about it. He kind of brushes it off. Comes back to it later. He gets questioned by Poe. He never really comes out and says it, but throughout the whole course of the movie, Finn's entire character, his little sentences, little things he kind of leaves, little breadcrumbs, they really mirror what Leia did and what she went through in Return of the Jedi, where she could sense things and she could tell how Luke was and she could feel with the Force and everything, and that was just kind of the beginning of her experience with the Force. In this movie, we actually got to see more of that fully come to fruition. We saw training between Luke and Leia, which was awesome. I loved seeing that. They used their de-aging CGI technology, which is just really kind of scary when you think about it, but they used that and had a cool interaction where Luke was training Leia. Leia handed over her lightsaber, and ends up ultimately that lightsaber is then stored away where Luke was hiding out, and then Luke gives it to Rey, and so she has both Anakin's original lightsaber, and then she has Leia's lightsaber. Well, before she gets the Leia lightsaber, she is kind of in a big rush. She's running off. She's trying to find the other Sith Wayfinder because Kylo has one from the beginning, but there were two created. So she's trying to find the second one. So she runs off. Turns out through all this mystery and everything, it is on the second Death Star, the one from Return of the Jedi. And we take that. She then finds bits and pieces of that Death Star, and it's on one of the other moons of Endor. Not the Forest Moon, but it's a different moon. It has a name, but I forget the name at the moment. I apologize. They didn't mention it in the movie. It's in the novelization and everything where they're talking about stuff. But at the moment I can't remember what it was called. But they go to this planet, to the moon. They look, and she finds out that it's on this one room on the Death Star. She goes there. It turns out it is the chamber where Palpatine kept Luke to make him watch his friends possibly die during the Battle of Endor, and he then ends up, Luke has the lightsaber fight with Vader, and Vader ultimately throws the Emperor over the edge. It's in that room, and it is awesome. It is all beat to hell. It is cool looking. But she finds a door, and the door opens mysteriously just to her. And she goes in, and we see like these reflective kind of panels and slabs that had the same kind of effect as the like glowy reflective rock from the little Sith temple hole thing from the Last Jedi, where Rey went down there and she saw like the vision of like all the like multiple versions of herself. It was like the same like reflective thing. Ultimately, she goes in there, she sees the Wayfinder, she grabs it, and then has a vision where she's confronted with an evil version of herself, with herself. And the evil version had a double-sided red lightsaber and just kind of comes at her, and it was collapsible. It would like fold in half, and which was kind of cool. And she ultimately gets kicked out of the room. She drops the Wayfinder. Kylo grabs it. He's there. She's like getting real bossy, getting kind of threatening, telling him, give it to me, and he won't. And so he says, the only way you're getting there is with me, and then he crushes it. She gets mad. They start this awesome lightsaber battle, just fighting throughout the Death Star. They ultimately end up outside, on the outside of the Death Star, fighting, and there's water crashing up from these huge waves, and it's just one of the coolest looking fights, like visually. They go back and forth. Ultimately, Rey kind of gets worn down, and Kylo's about to like strike her down and just kill her, and then before he does, there's just a pause, and then we see a vision of Leia, who just reaches out with the Force to speak with him and distracts him, and Kylo drops his lightsaber. Rey catches it and then stabs him, drives it through. Leia then, that was the last of her strength. She passes away and dies. And then, Kylo's sitting there. He has a hole through his stomach and he's dying. Well, we had seen it earlier where Rey healed some kind of basilisk looking snake monster, and she reaches down, touches Kylo, and heals his wound. But it also, in the meantime, heals the scar on his face. When she does that, she kind of, tells him, yeah, I did, want to reach out and take your hand whenever we were, in Snoke's throne room. But I wanted to take Ben's hand, not Kylo. And then she kind of gets in his TIE fighter, flies off, goes to meet Luke, and that's where she gets Leia's lightsaber. Well, I think this is one of the coolest scenes where Kylo is just having this like introspection, and he's just kind of lost. He's just having this moment, and he ends up having like a memory flashback kind of vision where his dad, Han Solo, appears to him and talks to him, and they have this like real heart to heart. It really reflects and mirrors what happened in episode 7, where they're on the bridge and they're talking. But ultimately, instead of driving his lightsaber through Han, he takes his lightsaber, turns around, hucks it into the ocean, and then turns back around. Han's gone. The next time we see Kylo, though, I guess at this point he should be Ben. And so we see Ben, and he shows up on Malachor to help out Rey. And they are then confronted. He ends up fighting off the Knights of Ren, and she's kind of confronted with some I don't want to say Praetorian guards, but they're kind of like that, and she fights them off, and she had, through their power of being a dyad, they handed off Anakin's lightsaber. So Kylo Ben with Anakin's lightsaber and Rey with Leia's. They fight off these people. They join back up in the throne room. They have this cool like scene where they both raise their lightsabers ready to battle, and then the Emperor immediately just kind of the Emperor beats them down. He just like pulls them in, and by accident he realizes that they are a dyad, and he absorbed some of that life force energy between them, and it healed him. And so he, with the force, holds them still and drains them, restoring himself, and they both pass out. They both come to eventually. First, Ben comes to. He, gets knocked away. Palpatine thinks it's kind of poetic to throw him down a hole since he once got thrown down a hole. And then eventually Rey goes to wake up. Well, when she wakes up, she kind of is just staring into the sky, watching Palpatine shoot lightning into the sky and, knocking out all the ships and kind of stopping all their computer systems so that way they're falling out of the sky. But she has this kind of vision where all these past Jedi voices speak to her, and she kind of gathers herself and gathers up her strength and pulls Leia's saber to her, and she goes and confronts the Emperor. The Emperor stops his attack on the sky so that all the ships stop falling. They're able to get back on their attack and attack this giant fleet of Star Destroyers equipped with Death Star-like cannons that can destroy a planet. And she takes him on, and she's holding him back, and they have this bit of an exchange where he says, "Oh, I'm all of the Sith," and she comes back that she's all the Jedi. She pulls Anakin's saber to her, pulls out two, blocks the Force lightning that the Emperor's shooting at her with both lightsabers, kind of pushes up against to him, gets close, and reflects back the lightning, electrocutes him, destroys him. He explodes. The whole throne room explodes. It's a big old mess, and then she passes out dead. And for a moment there, I thought they might actually keep her dead. I thought she was just done, and that was kind of her arc. Well, Ben climbs up out of the hole, sees her, goes over, picks her up, and kind of a weird Shakespearean Romeo Juliet kind of thing, and holds her in his lap, and he's holding her close, and he's just, you can see he's kind of upset, and then he kind of clicks that he could heal her, and he uses his force power to heal her, and she comes to, and they're sitting there, they're looking at each other, kind of smiling, and then they kiss, and then he kind of smiles and just kind of drains of all color and falls over, and then a few moments later he just disappears like a Force ghost, kind of like how Obi-Wan did. And yeah, it's just kind of odd. He just sacrificed himself to bring her back to life and went kind of full redemption, brought himself back, which I feel like is a pretty fitting arc for him. It was cool to see. I would have liked to see him stick around and see more, but I do feel like this is definitely a cool thing that they did for his character and let him kind of take on that role. Skywalkers and always sacrificing themselves to save other people, save the people they love. Ultimately, I did enjoy the movie. From the Jedi voices, having, characters like Anakin, both Obi-Wans, Qui-Gon Jinn, Ahsoka, to, Finn possibly being Force sensitive, which was kind of confirmed by J.J. Abrams. We got to see, at the very end, we got to see Rey's lightsaber, which was made of her staff, and she had a little flick, a scroll wheel thing that was her activator instead of a button, which was cool. And it was yellow, which we had not seen a yellow one, I don't think, on film. and I don't think we saw it in the Clone Wars or anything. That would have been the only other time we would have possibly seen it. Yeah, but people want to talk about how, Rey, how she was so strong and she didn't train for anything and all that. But that's because her and Kylo were a dyad. She was able to pull whenever he mind probed her in the Force Awakens, when he was mind probing her and trying to find where Luke was hiding. She was able to pull information from him as well, and that's how she learned most of what she did, because obviously she didn't do a ton of training with Luke, but she did pull a bunch from Kylo in that. So she had learned a lot in just that moment, even though she herself didn't do the training. They were able. They share a connection and are able to basically be like one person. They share the knowledge and power, and that's even reflected. They both fight very similarly throughout the course of the movies, which, I mean, there's different forms, but like they're constantly fighting very, very, very similarly. Them being a dyad, I mean, it really is the whole point of it. I mean, that's why they're able to have the connection in The Last Jedi. It's why, they have this deeper connection and are able to switch items and pass things through the Force in this movie, The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, it's a really interesting concept, and I think people are really discounting it because they really want to hate on Rey because they feel like she didn't earn anything, which, yes and no. I mean, it's because of her being a part of the dyad. She was able to learn that from Kylo, and Kylo learned things from her. Able to learn how to heal, with the Force and everything. Like, he didn't train for that. He got that from her there at the end. It's a really cool concept. I really liked how they executed it. They weren't in your face about it, so you kind of had to read between the lines up until this movie, whenever Kylo just kind of comes out and explicitly states they're a dyad, and then later on the Emperor says they're a dyad. The only other things I can think of with this movie, though, people were saying that the Emperor coming back somehow negates Vader's sacrifice. That's not true. Vader's sacrifice was done to save Luke, to save his son, not to kill the Emperor. He did it to save his son. His sacrifice was completely, justified. He did kill the Emperor. The Emperor died. The Emperor was just brought back by some crazy mystical means. His sacrifice was completely, justified. He did kill the Emperor. The Emperor died. The Emperor was just brought back by some crazy mystical means. And so, yeah, that was just a crazy turn that we didn't expect. The other things, people were saying that Luke's character is different. Well, it was different from the beginning of The Last Jedi. The beginning, he had disconnected himself from the Force. He was just completely out to want to destroy the Jedi and the Sith. He wanted them gone. He thought they were just causing ruin, and so he cut himself off. He threw the lightsaber like it was nothing, and he was being very disrespectful. Well, by the end, when he reconnected himself to the Force and was teaching Rey, and then saw and felt what was going on with Leia, and then he ultimately force projected himself to Crate and fought Kylo. He did that knowing that this technique was so strenuous, it was most likely going to kill him. So he was going to die, and he knew that, and he did it anyways to save everyone there. He sacrificed himself and became the Jedi, and apologized to Leia, and found redemption and peace and he was no longer at odds with the Jedi. I mean, we saw that, once again with his conversation he had in The Last Jedi with Yoda. So I mean, his character was different because it grew. He had a very big evolution in The Last Jedi, to where he went from this kind of like apathetic, like I want to stay out of it, I just want this all to be over and gone, it's all awful, to finding his connection and love with it, and coming back to the Force, and then respecting everything, and wanting to pass on and teach everything. The other things that we saw in this, though, there were some unfinished arcs. We saw an arc with Janna where she was talking to Lando at the end, and they were discussing, finding out where she's coming from. So there's kind of that adventure with Lando and Janna. Rey, Finn, and Poe had their own separate thing, to where they were kind of this movie had some kind of implications of like romance on all kinds of different levels. This movie was packed full of stuff. I mean, we got nice little touches of things that we wish we had seen years ago, with Leia being trained in the Force. We got just cool new concepts and things like the dyad. We saw Rey actually use Force lightning, which was kind of cool because we hadn't seen a Jedi ever use Force lightning. I mean, she did it by accident and did it out of anger and hate, and that's why it happened, but we saw it. They definitely cranked these movies up. I enjoyed them. I know a lot of people didn't. I think people are ridiculous. They're just trying to not enjoy these movies as much as they can. I mean, they're good, enjoyable movies. They're fun. Not every character is going to have tons and tons of backstory. I mean, people want to hate on Finn because, there's no story to him, but he's still a fun, cool character. He's hilarious. He's there. He cares about everyone deeply. And, I mean, to be honest, Han Solo's character was kind of flat. I mean, all we knew was he was a smuggler and owed Jabba some money. But he was there. And people didn't really say much. We liked him because he's funny and charismatic and just kind of a witty guy. Like, he was just fun. And I mean, but we didn't know a lot about his character. We don't know where he came from until Solo came around. People really don't want to enjoy these movies, but they're really actually good. They're unique. They pushed things with these Star Wars movies. They did things that they had never done before. They kept things mirroring the previous movies to kind of give it that sense of familiarity, but also to show, once again, as Star Wars always does, that history repeats itself, and that they have to kind of break the cycle. But yeah, I mean, if you're truly a fan of Star Wars and you love these movies, even I know people that hated Episode 8, they like this movie. It's so good. Go out, see it, check it out, and leave some comments. Tell me what you think, what you like, what you don't like. Tell me how awful and stupid I am, whatever. Leave a comment. Let's talk about it. And you guys have a great night. Jumanji Next Level. Is it next level, or is it time to find a new game? Welcome back, everyone, to Featured Films. My name is Joe. I appreciate you all tuning in. Today we're talking about Jumanji Next Level. Now, this movie is the second movie in the new reboot since they started that a couple years ago, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Kevin Hart, Karen Gillan, and obviously we have Jack Black in there as well. They're reprising their roles from the first one. Same kids in it as well. They are now back. There's some more cast members and everything included in this one. They pop up as the movie goes along, new characters. And this time around, Jumanji, instead of being the classic board game that some of you may remember, again, it's the video game. However, the video game was smashed, but the main character that was in the first one, he ends up finding he goes back for the video game, brings it back, repairs the console a little bit, and goes back into that world. And hilarity ensues. It ends up bringing in new people. We have Danny DeVito and Danny Glover coming in as two old guys that have been like lifelong friends. Kind of some bad blood between them. Obviously, Danny DeVito going into the body of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is just comedic gold. It's a good time. They go through all kinds of different like worlds and different adventures and stuff this time. There's new stuff. The characters have new abilities in the video game world, and it just adds to some hilariousness. Obviously, Jack Black is great. He at times is possessed by several different people. He he has at one point the character Fridge, who's a like college age black guy on the football team, takes over his body. He gets possessed by a teenage girl, and then later on he finally gets possessed by a completely different teenage girl. And it was it's good stuff. It's weird and funny. The cast just has great chemistry. They often, kind of fight a little bit, but the way that all these characters play off each other is hilarious. There's good action. It's a great movie for everyone in the family. Everyone's going to enjoy it, whether you're a young kid or if you are someone a little older who may have been around when the original one came out back in the 90s. Now, I would say you kind of have to see the first one to understand it a little bit in the beginning, but it's not necessary. They do pick it up and just kind of assume that you saw the first one and kind of are caught up on the world and know it's a video game and know general rules about the first one, but you can still watch it and enjoy it and have a good time. You may just be a little lost from time to time, but I definitely recommend checking this one out. It's a great movie for the whole family. It's out in the holidays, so everyone can go see it, whether people are in town from break or you just want to kind of get out and escape from everything for a little while. This movie is definitely a good laugh, and I highly recommend it. Now, as normal, I just wanted to say thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for commenting, liking, subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please click the subscribe link. Check out all my other videos as they're coming out. And thank you again. You all have a great day. Today I'm talking about Bombshell. Was it explosive or was it a dud? Let's find out. Again, we're talking about Bombshell today, and this movie takes place back in 2015 during the presidential race over at Fox News. We have Charlize Theron playing Megyn Kelly, Nicole Kidman, she's playing Gretchen Carlson, and Margot Robbie is playing a fictional character named Kayla, and I forget her last name. It's a little tough, but her character's name's Kayla. And we have John Lithgow playing Roger Ailes, who is a complete, awful, despicable human being. And we have a couple other people, pop up, familiar faces, and we see them playing these other characters at Fox News. We have, all the faces that you could imagine. I mean, we've got Bill O'Reilly, you have Geraldo Rivera, you have Rupert Murdoch. You've got all kinds of people that pop up in this movie, and it is a pretty good movie. I mean, obviously, what happens in the movie is based on what actually happened. I mean, all this is very a stretch is this with Margot Robbie's character, but they are based on other actual accounts of these many, many, many women that came forward and came out and was speaking out against Roger Ailes and the environment there at Fox News. And all these sexual allegations, these sexual assault charges that go against Ailes, and John Lithgow puts on a hell of a performance. Is normally just this happy, cheery, kind of quirky guy in his movies, and in this he is just dark and demented and a twisted person. And even though he's just an elderly, like, geriatric, like, arthritic ridden old man, he abuses his power and manipulates these young women. And it's truly a great performance, but also just disgusting what Roger Ailes did. If you're, interested even slightly in politics, I mean, it is a good movie. If you're, just wanting like kind of a recap, and I remember most of the stuff that what happened when this movie, when these events happened. I remember them, but this movie does a great job recapping it all, summarizing what happened, showing, from the time of the Republican primaries all the way through till when Roger Ailes was ultimately, kicked out at Fox. And it's a real eye-opener. It's a great movie. I mean, Charlize Theron and Nicole Kidman put on spectacular performances. Margot Robbie, it's hard to remember sometimes that she's a great actress when she's always just kind of cast as like this dumb, like, beautiful woman, but she is actually a great woman, and she puts on a phenomenal job here, and it was really good to see. She's not this weird character that she plays when she's Harley Quinn, and she's not like the over-sexualized woman that she plays in Wolf of Wall Street. She's actually just a like well-rounded character that is actually like deep and goes through a lot of trauma and experiences quite a bit in this movie. I would definitely recommend everyone checking this out. Maybe wait for it to be out on like a streaming service or something. It's not going to be like, it's not like, award-winning movie. It's not, best movie of the year, but it is good. It's enjoyable. You do get to see like this dark side that happened at Fox News here in 2015. And, if you didn't pay attention to it, I definitely recommend checking it out to learn what happened. And if you did follow everything, watch it again. It's still a good reminder of everything that happened during that whole ordeal. thank you again for all tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, please click the subscribe button down below. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers. We're going to try to break that and then eventually get to 1,000, but we're growing, and I appreciate everyone's support. Thank you so much. You have a great day. Welcome back, everyone. Today is a bit weird. Normally I do a quick intro that does a little bit of a play on words of the title of the movie that I'm reviewing. Well, today's movie is 1917, so that's a bit tough since it's numbers, but let's give this a try. Okay, here we go. Today I'm talking about 1917. Was it a 9 or was it a 7? And we all know 7, 8, 9. So let's find out. Welcome back, everybody, to Featured Films. My name is Joe, and again, today we're talking about 1917. This movie is set in World War One. It's starring Dean Charles Chapman, who's known for playing Tommen in Game of Thrones. He was in Blinded by the Light earlier this year, and he's also been a recurring character on Into the Badlands. We have George McKay, who's the lead in this movie. He's basically just been in small roles for years. His biggest role was back in 2003. He was in Peter Pan, and then we've got small roles played by big name actors. We've got Colin Firth, who you may know from the Kingsman series, King's Speech, and also the Bridget Jones series. Also, we've got Benedict Cumberbatch, who is most known for Doctor Strange, Sherlock, and also he was in Imitation Game. Now, this movie is just beautiful and gruesome and intense. It is, again, it's set during World War One in Europe, and it is brutal. As you've seen in the trailers, if you've seen it at all, basically our two leads, Dean Charles Chapman and George McKay, their characters are given orders that they have to get this retreat order to a different unit that is several miles away. And obviously being back, in 1917, there wasn't an easy means of communication, so they had to go by foot. And so they have to cross through all this they have to go through this territory that was basically controlled by the Germans, and all kinds of craziness happens. It's an incredible piece of cinematography. The director is incredible, does a great job. They do it all in third person in one take, so it follows the main characters of Dean Charles Chapman and George McKay's characters through the whole movie. It just follows them, and whatever they are looking at, it'll pan around to show that or whatever they're doing, but they're always in screen. It never cuts away to other people talking, which is definitely different and unique. I've heard some people say that it feels a lot like a video game, which yeah, it definitely kind of has that feel because of that one stagnant camera constantly following these characters. However, it's really nice. It kind of creates this connection and intimacy with the characters. But yeah, they just are going through. They run into German soldiers and are basically, from the moment the movie starts, kind of on the run, and it gets going pretty quick. You see a lot of stuff in this movie. They do not hold anything back. It is very visceral in the things that it shows. Definitely not something that most like kids would want to see. Like I know some adults would have a tough time seeing it. Again, it shows dead people in all various different states of death, whether they're recently dead or if they got shot and lost a limb, or people that were like have been dead for a while and have been buried under rubble. You'll see body parts sticking out. You'll see mounds of bodies of just the dead that they've just kind of had stacked up. I mean, it is very rough. Again, not something kids, or even if you're like a little, you have a pretty easy stomach to get upset. This is not your movie. This is rough. But it's a gorgeous movie. It's an intense message, and if you're a fan of military movies, anything like that, it is definitely a go-to. Like, it is good. It's definitely going to win some awards. It's already won Golden Globe. It's been nominated for some Oscars, and I imagine it's going to do great. Again, just the amount of care and attention they put into this movie, it really is mind-boggling, but it is intense. It has this just way to just dig at you. I mean, it's not necessarily showing too much, but I mean, at times it will, show you the realities of war, and it, especially nowadays with so much going on in the world, it is very, very poignant. But I would definitely give it a watch. It's a very good movie. I would personally go see it in theaters. It's that good, but again, definitely not a typical like date night movie or anything. But yeah, just kind of know, if you can't see gruesome stuff on screen, this movie's not for you. But it really is beautiful whenever they're not showing the gruesome stuff, like the scenery and the way that everything is shot, the lighting, the music, everything is fantastic. Yeah, I definitely want to see it again. It's really good. Again, thank you all so much for subscribing, liking, sharing. I appreciate it all so much. Every little bit helps, especially now while I'm trying to grow and get everything going. So I appreciate it so much. If you haven't liked or commented or subscribed, please do. Every little bit helps. And again, thank you all. You all have a great day. Today, I'm talking about Bad Boys for Life. Was it bad, or does it need to get a life? Stay tuned and let's find out. Welcome back, everyone, to Featured Films. My name is Joe, and again, today we're talking about Bad Boys for Life. This movie is the third in the series for the Bad Boys movies. Not the fourth one, though movies tend to have like little plays on words for things. So Bad Boys for Life, but it's not the fourth one, it's the third one. And obviously Bad Boys 3 Life doesn't sound good. Anyways, so this movie, it has been 17 years since the second one. It's been a long time. And at the rate they're going, if they do another one, it'll be in like 35 years, because it was 8 years between the first and second one, and then 17 between the second and third one. But again, it's starring Will Smith, most notably known for Men in Black, Aladdin, Wild Wild West, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Martin Lawrence, who is known for his TV series Martin, as well as Big Mama's House and mostly the Bad Boys series. You've also got recurring characters with Joe Pantoliano. His name is tough to say, uh, but you know him from all kinds of stuff. He's been in The Matrix, Sopranos, Sense8. He's always kind of like a background character, but he's great. He's a great actor, great in every role he's in. You've got new characters popping up as well. Paula Nunez, she's mostly just been in like smaller roles in Mexico and like Mexican movies and TV, as well as she was in the Purge TV series. Now you've also got Vanessa Hudgens. She's mostly known for doing High School Musical, Machete Kills, and Sucker Punch. And then you've also got Alexander Ludwig. He is known for Midway, Hunger Games, and he was in the Vikings TV series. They all do great. Who really surprised me was Alexander Ludwig. He kind of stands out. He's a secondary character, kind of in the background, but he's funny and like you just love his character through the whole movie. He definitely was a big surprise for me. This movie though is probably the best in the entire series. It's hilarious. It has so much action. The directing's done really well. The fighting and choreography is really good. It's not like the Bourne series to where it has like super close up fights to where you can't tell what's going on in the action. It's far enough back to where you kind of get a good sense of what's going on. There's some really cool scenes, and even in those high like energy crazy action scenes, they're splicing in comedy, and there's a lot going on. The movie actually has like it has heart. Like it actually makes you like feel something, which isn't typical for a lot of action movies, let alone a third action movie in a series. So it definitely surprised me. But I mean, everyone kind of puts on a good performance from Will Smith on down. There's not really a whole lot like to complain. I mean, you've got a great set. I mean, it's modern day, so I mean, it's real easy to do. Music's great and on point. The comedy is hilarious. I think the biggest change is that they got rid of the director of the first and second one, which was Michael Bay, who actually has a small cameo in the movie. But Michael Bay was not directing this one, and so it's very different. Has a different style. It's very modern, updated. It's not like his other movies like Transformers or anything. It's definitely an action movie, but it doesn't feel dated, and it definitely brought new life to this movie. Now, I would say that this movie is definitely a watch. I would get everyone to go out and see it. It's a fun time. It's hilarious. I mean, everyone's going to enjoy it, whether they're a fan of action, a fan of comedy. I mean, it's everyone's going to enjoy it. Now there is definitely some blood and gore and things, because there's guns and shooting and killing, and language is definitely rough. But I mean, what do you expect going into these movies when they're rated R? They definitely earned it. There's a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, but again, it's really funny. It's not too much to where you can't handle it if you've got like a easy to upset stomach or anything. But it is enough to where some people, obviously, I mean, being rated R, don't want kids to see it. But otherwise, I mean, if you were a fan of the first and second one, this movie is, in my opinion, the best in the entire series. There's so much in it. It has, again, great heart, and just, it's so fun. I truly, truly enjoyed this movie. I went in with kind of low expectations. The previous movies were kind of cheesy, and you kind of knew what you were getting. But this surprised. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So, I mean, long time for us to wait for a movie, but definitely well worth it. Again, thank you all so much for subscribing. I greatly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, please, down below, click the subscribe button. helps out so much. And thank you. You have a great day. Today, I'm talking about Gemini Man. Was it a Gemini, or was it more of a Virgo? Stay tuned, let's find out. Welcome back, everybody, to Featured Films. My name is Joe, and today we're talking about Gemini Man. This movie stars Will Smith. Most people will know him from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Men in Black, Wild Wild West, Aladdin. I mean, he's been in tons of stuff. Pretty much everybody knows him. We've got Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She's most known for Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Fargo, 10 Cloverfield Lane, and she's going to be in the upcoming Birds of Prey movie. You've also got Clive Owen, who is known for his roles in Children of Men, Sin City, and Shoot 'Em Up. Then we've got Benedict Wong as well in this movie as a side character. He's most known for his role as Wong in Doctor Strange, as well as Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. He also had a recurring role in Marco Polo and was a small character in The Martian. This movie has Will Smith. Their big, selling point was that it had, modern day current Will Smith, but also a younger, CGI created Will Smith. And he was de-aged and looked to be about 1920, right around there. You find out early on that through this program, he was cloned, and this younger clone of him was raised by Clive Owen's character. Will Smith is a lifelong hitman assassin for a government agency, and basically they decide that, he was going to retire, but they decided as the agency that he knew too much, and so they were going to kill him off. And so they send in teams of just CIA, I don't think it's CIA, it's some other government agency they made up for this movie, but they send in these agents to go in and kill him. He is really skilled, takes a bunch of them out. They ultimately end up having to send in backup, and they send in the clone of him. Now, the movie's kind of a cool premise, but at times the CGI Will Smith just looks out of place. His movements at times is just too sharp. You can tell it's completely computer generated, and it just takes you out of the believability of it, which I know is a little bit ridiculous because he's a cloned assassin, but still, it's grounded in reality. It's supposed to be, this world, and it's not anything crazy, fantastic or any kind of fantasy or sci-fi world. And it just takes you out of the moment. Sometimes his lips when he's talking just look odd. It breaks the believability that it's actually a character, a person, and you can completely tell it was done and made by a computer. It at times looks incredible. It really does fake you out at sometimes. You just wouldn't believe it. But then there's other times, especially whenever the character goes to smile, they haven't perfected the technology with especially the mouth and how it moves, and so it takes you out of the moment. It really does break it, and so I wouldn't say the movie's great. I enjoyed it. It's fun. It's not, this movie I'm going to watch over and over and over again, or, a movie that's going to win all these awards. It's a fun little action flick. If you go into it just expecting that it's going to be, just kind of, meets the bar, it's, not awful, but not great. I would definitely stream this one, wait for it to be out, on Netflix, Hulu, whatever. It's fine to watch and just see. A lot of times, like I said, it does pull off quite a bit and make you believe that there is this younger Will Smith. It's actually been built from the ground up. It's completely computer generated, so it is impressive, but at times it just doesn't sell it. And so for that and for just kind of predictable writing, it just doesn't quite live up and become this amazing, classic movie that everyone's going to want to watch all the time. So yeah, I would check it out, once, maybe twice. It's not anything you should be rushing out to see or anything, but give it a shot, especially if you like action movies. This one's going to be fun. Thank you all so much for subscribing. I appreciate it. Any kind of liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, it all helps out so much. I'm growing every day, so I appreciate it. And again, thank you all. You have a great day. Today, I'm doing my first TV series. I'm talking about Star Trek Picard. Did it boldly go where no man has gone before? Or should it have found a strange new world? Welcome back to Featured Films, everybody. My name is Joe. Today we're talking about Star Trek Picard. This series stars Sir Patrick Stewart reprising his role as Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek Next Generation. You'll know him as Charles Xavier from X-Men. He does voices in American Dad. He had a series called Blunt Talk that was hilarious. We've also got Brent Spiner returning as Data. He was in Warehouse 13, The Goldbergs, Independence Day 1 and 2. We've also got Issa Briones. She's playing the character Daj. She's mostly done theater roles. She was in Hamilton. She was also in American Crime Story, The Assassination of Gianni Versace. We have Alison Pill. She's playing the character Dr. Agnes Girardi. She's been in smaller roles and things in American Horror Story and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Now, returning to the series, we do have other characters from Star Trek Next Generation, popping up and making cameos. We've got Jonathan Frakes, who plays Will Riker. He's done a lot of directing work since his days on Star Trek. He's done directing work for The Orville. He did Star Trek First Contact, the movie. He did Star Trek Discovery. He's done a bunch of different episodes of things here and there. We've also got Marina Sirtis coming back, reprising her role as Deanna Troi. She's done a lot of small roles and voice work, but you may know her or recognize her voice from Young Justice, or she actually recently had a cameo on Orville where she was a teacher. Now, this one was a cameo that I was not expecting to come back until they showed it in the second or third trailer for the series. It's Jerry Ryan. She's coming back. She's playing her character 7 of 9. Again, also done a lot of smaller work. She was in Warehouse 13, Psych, Law and Order. She's done a lot of just different episodes of things. Now, I am going to talk about the opening scenes here with our main characters in this first episode to kind of get us an idea of where they're at and what's going on with this story. So if you don't want any kind of spoilers, go ahead, jump ahead. Now, we open up this series, opens up in space, traditional Star Trek style, and it pans over and we see the Enterprise D. And it goes into the captain's quarters and we see Picard and Data playing poker. Now, they're playing poker, having conversation, just kind of going back and forth, talking about Data's tells and how he doesn't actually have a tell because he's a robot, an android, and it's really interesting because it goes right back into their characters as if we've never missed anything, even though it's been 20 years. But then things get a little trippy, and suddenly Picard wakes up, and it turns out it was all a dream. And he gets up, and he has this cute pit bull named Number One, and he's living on Chateau Picard in his vineyard, and he opens up the windows and you see out into the vineyard, and it's really beautiful. And he's got a couple like live-in helpers there. He's got one that's a Vulcan and one that's a Romulan. Now, that kind of lets us know, where he's at. He's just, older and retired. He's super upset with Starfleet and doesn't agree with the choices they've made. Then we kind of end up cutting over to our new character, Daj. And we find Daj in her home having wine with her boyfriend. And they're talking about how she just got accepted into the Daystrom Institute. Now, they're just kind of having a casual conversation, and they run out of wine. And her boyfriend goes to get them more drinks, when suddenly 3 people teleport into the room and attack them. They end up killing the boyfriend, and they attack her, put up like a bag over her head, and they're trying to like handcuff her or kidnap her or something. And then she just kind of snaps and just goes and attacks them and just kicks some serious butt, and then kills these 3 people that like teleported in. They were wearing all black, had like black helmets on, so you couldn't see who they were or anything. And after she does this, she's just sitting there. She's kind of in a panic, and she has a flash, and she sees a vision of Picard's face, and then kind of cuts away from there. It's crazy because these characters are really in depth. The series is super interesting. It's not like how Next Generation was, with each episode kind of having a whole arc in itself. It is an overarching, series, similar to most modern television shows, and it's visually stunning. I love the directing. The acting is really on point. They delve really deep into, Star Trek like lore, and like they keep everything super accurate, and it's just really fascinating to see. If you're a Star Trek fan, if you are, a fan of sci-fi, or just want to watch a good TV show, this is definitely a good thing to check out. I'm super excited for finding out where everything goes. I liked this a lot more than I initially liked Star Trek Discovery. Star Trek Discovery, I wasn't quite on board with initially, and then by the end of the first season, I was on board, and I enjoyed it a lot, actually. And then second season was even better. This is much better than that. It doesn't have that same kind of slow start. It's really cool. I really enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they're gonna do, where they're gonna go. I think there might be some interesting things going on with 7 of 9 showing back up. That there could be maybe things with Borg, or there's some other things in the series that kind of lead that there's going to be maybe some stuff going on with androids, and it's really kind of interesting to see what they're going to do. And I've always wanted to see what happened with the Federation and the Romulans and their whole conflict after that supernova, and wanted to know what happened there. I definitely recommend seeing this. It's so good. The same familiar characters, we're right back in it. Everything is incredible, and I'm excited as a Star Trek fan, a sci-fi fan, and just like a good TV fan. I'm really excited to see this show. Thank you all again for subscribing, liking, commenting, sharing. Everything that you've done has helped me out so much. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and you all have a great day. Today, I'm talking about The Gentleman by Guy Ritchie. Did it have a huge set of bollocks, or was it a bit limp? Welcome back, everyone, to Featured Films. My name is Joe. As I said, we're talking about The Gentleman today by Guy Ritchie. This movie stars Matthew McConaughey as Mickey Pearson. You'll know him from The Wolf of Wall Street, Interstellar, Magic Mike, and if you haven't seen it, definitely check out his performance in Free State of Jones. We've also got Charlie Hunnam as Ray. You'll know him from Sons of Anarchy, Pacific Rim, and King Arthur, which was also directed by Guy Ritchie. We've also got Michelle Dockery. She's playing Rosalind Pearson, which is Matthew McConaughey's character, Mickey, his wife. And you'll know her from Downton Abbey and Anna Karenina. And someone that we haven't seen in movies for quite some time, Hugh Grant is actually in this movie. He's playing the character Fletcher. You'll know him from Bridget Jones movies, Love Actually, and he was actually in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Also in this movie is Jeremy Strong. His character's name is Matthew. He's had a lot of smaller roles in movies like Lincoln, Selma, and Molly's Game. In this movie, we've also got Henry Golding playing the character Dry Eye. He would be most known from Crazy Rich Asians, A Simple Favor, and Last Christmas. And to round the cast out, we've got Colin Farrell playing the character Coach. You'll know him from True Detective, Fantastic Beasts, and Where to Find Them, as well as just a kind of guilty pleasure, the movie SWAT. Now, this movie is directed by Guy Ritchie, actually directed, produced, and written by Guy Ritchie, and it is probably his best movie in ages. I would at least say in probably the last decade. I mean, the only thing that gives it any kind of run for its money is The Man from U.N.C.L.E., but this movie was so good. I loved it all the way through. It's typical Guy Ritchie style with, lots of twists and turns. There's, intrigue and drama. There's gangsters and drugs and shooting and violence and just witty humor. It is really fun. After King Arthur and Aladdin and all kinds of other movies, I was kind of starting to give up on Guy Ritchie and just think that he kind of lost it. But this movie really proved me wrong. It's so good, so fun. Guy Ritchie, if you are a big fan of his movies, Snatched or Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, this movie is right up that alley. It's so good. Matthew McConaughey's performance, he's just this ruthless tyrant drug kingpin that sells weed. We've got Charlie Hunnam, who's his right-hand man, who's just kind of, his cleaner, who just does everything and just takes care of all kinds of problems for him. His wife, Michelle Dockery, she's just cold and calculating and great performance from her. Hugh Grant, though, is hilarious and just awkward, and you love his character and you hate him all at the same time. It's a really good performance from him. Him and Charlie Hunnam, have this kind of back and forth through the whole movie, and it is just so fun and great to see. Charlie Hunnam is kind of soft spoken in this movie, but he has this power and presence about his character that you just know he's done some stuff. Henry Golding, he's played a lot of romance movies and kind of just this sweet guy or whatever, but in this he's this ruthless young up and coming gangster, and he has a pretty good performance as well. Everything in this movie, from the music, it just sets this tone of just dread and intrigue and just really gets you going. But we've also got the directing, obviously the great directing style of Guy Ritchie that just spices things up. It's got good action, it's quick, you see all kinds of crazy, just strange characters throughout the movie, as you typically do with Guy Ritchie, and it's really fun. It's obviously very not politically correct, with Guy Ritchie's style and everything, but it's really fun, and I had a great time, watching this movie. It's tense and hilarious and action packed. I mean, this is like the first movie of the year I think I've like just like super loved. So this is definitely a great movie. I would definitely recommend going out to see this movie in theaters. It's so fun. If you like action or gangster movies or anything, check this one out. It is just incredible. And as always, thank you all so much for liking, commenting, subscribing. It all helps out so much. And thank you again. You have a great day. Today I'm talking about a movie with possibly the longest title in cinema history. That's right, I'm talking about Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. Now, was it a raptor or just a little sparrow? Let's find out. Welcome back to Featured Films. My name is Joe. Again, we're talking about Birds of Prey, and I'm just going to call it Birds of Prey from here on out because the full title is real long, and pretty much every movie theater I've seen and everywhere online is just calling it Birds of Prey, so we're just going to call it Birds of Prey. This movie is, in my opinion, just fantastic. From like cinematography to music to the cast. This movie was visually really nice. It's bright and colorful, but also at times gets kind of dark, but it keeps this vibrance about it that just carries throughout the whole movie. The movie's kind of, as I would describe it, very whimsical. It's just bright and colorful and quirky, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. At one point in time, there's a scene where some action's going on, bit of a fight scene, and then all of a sudden, Harley Quinn shows up with roller skates on, and like you're like, as the viewer, you're like, what? Where? When did she? How? Like, why is she in skates? And then they actually, like, one of the characters says, when did she have time to make a shoe change? They actually like pointed out they're very just kind of like comical about everything. It's really nice and uplifting, and it's not taking itself super serious like Batman vs Superman did. This movie is a little disjointed in the beginning. They do a lot of flashbacks. Like they'll like have something play out, and then they'll be like, oh, how did I get here? And then they'll go back and explain and catch it back up, and they do that like 3 or 4 times, and it definitely in the beginning throws you off. You eventually get used to it, and I think they try to use it to make you like kind of get in the mind of Harley Quinn, to where it's very disjointed and jumpy, and she's very weird and kind of psychotic, but it definitely throws you off in the beginning. And that's really my only major gripe. I mean, the music in this was phenomenal. The acting I thought was really good. There's a lot of characters, so they had to kind of do the best they could with giving everyone all these new stories, and they did really good for what they had. There's Margot Robbie, who's obviously Harley Quinn. You'll know her from things like Wolf of Wall Street, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I, Tonya, and also Suicide Squad. There's little flashbacks for Mary Elizabeth Winstead playing Huntress. You'll know her from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Gemini Man, and 10 Cloverfield Lane. They explain how she got to here, and they explain, how Journey Smollett Bell playing Dina Lance, aka Black Canary, got there, and that she's been working in this bar for a while. And you'll know her from roles in True Blood, Friday Night Lights, and The Great Debaters. And they touch on Rosie Perez playing the character Renee Montoya. I haven't seen her in a lot of stuff lately, but she was in Do the Right Thing, Fearless, and White Men Can't Jump. And the problems she's been having in the precinct, like they go through all this stuff. We've also got Ewan McGregor, who's playing Roman Sionis, aka Black Mask. He obviously will be known for playing Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. He was in Moulin Rouge, Train Spotting, Fargo, and most recently in Doctor Sleep. And in this movie, he's this just ruthless gangster tyrant trying to slowly build up a big criminal network, and he is just unhinged. He gets more and more violent as the movie goes, and he's already crazy and violent and loves cutting people up and just humiliating people, and he is just power mad, and he's kind of simple. He doesn't have like some sort of crazy like moral dilemma. He's just like evil through and through, so he's not meant to be like, related to, kind of how Thanos was or anything. He's just this cruel monster that loves being violent, and he's out to basically, prove his dad wrong because his dad kicked him off their family fortune, and so now he's just kind of turned to crime, and he is just sinister in this movie. Like, he's weird and like goofy, and then he's just so eccentric, but just this evil, awful guy. At the beginning of the movie, you find out that Harley Quinn and Joker had split up. They're not together anymore, and so, being the evil guy he is, he turns his sights on her because she's not under the Joker's protection, and everyone kind of fears him. So he starts going after her, and then she kind of makes a deal with him because he's looking for this diamond, and the diamond ends up leading them to another character, to Cassandra Cain, who's actually played by Ella J. Basco. And she's been in pretty much nothing. You'll know her from like really small roles in episodes of Veep and also in Grey's Anatomy. And then to round out the cast, there is a little henchman role, kind of the right-hand man to Ewan McGregor's character, played by Chris Messina. The character's name is Victor Saz, and you'll know him from Argo and also the Mindy Project.
Go to hell.
They're not just very flat characters, as I've heard some people say. There's actually a lot of depth to these characters. They do a good job of making you feel stuff for these characters. You actually feel really bad for Harley Quinn in this movie, which I'm not like a huge DC Joker Harley Quinn fan, but like this movie was really good. I was expecting, similar to, Suicide Squad, maybe a little bit better because Wonder Woman and Aquaman have been better, but it was even beyond Wonder Woman and Aquaman in my opinion. It was lighthearted and fun, but also was an R rating, so there was a lot of like violence and action, and they used that R rating and did some really weird stuff, which I loved. And the like action was really well choreographed. I was truly impressed with it. They did all kinds of quirky little things, lots of kind of like prop usage. Like there's just things all over, and they're always bringing stuff in to add into the scene. It was really fun. But the major thing that like struck me was how good the music was. This music, they had a lot of like covers and things. There was covers of "Hit Me with Your Best Shot" and "It's a Man's World," and those two songs themselves were just stellar. But like the music through the whole thing, the tone of everything was just so good. You felt stuff. You felt torn. You felt anger. You were drawn in by it. You were excited. Everything was like awesome. The action was well punctuated with like good music that kept the pace up. The movie did have a problem where towards the end is whenever all the characters kind of come together in a sort of like Avengers like moment, and they kind of even played that off, and it was used kind of tongue in cheek and made fun of the Avengers and those superhero team up movies. It was really funny, but they didn't get there, but they did build to it, and the third act does pay off in this movie. It feels really good that everyone kind of teaming up, and that like I said, the action's really well choreographed, so they're like going around a room. Things aren't like choppy and quick and you're missing stuff. It's well spaced out. It looks awesome, and they had alluded to things like earlier in the movie that pay off later on, and I had so much fun. I was laughing through the whole movie. I was cringing from just the stuff that happened, all the action and violence. But I would definitely want to see this again. Like, it was so good. It's probably the only DC movie like I really want to see again. I mean, I've seen a couple of them a few times, but this one, like, I actually want to sit down and rewatch. It was well directed, well shot. The Like I said, the color choices, it makes it unique and fun. The characters are all weird and hilarious. Huntress steals the third act. She's hilarious and just awkward and fun. Like, I haven't heard anyone complain about her character. It's hilarious. And so I hope we get to see more of her. Black Canary's character is really badass. She's kind of down and depressed and just not excited about anything in life and hates everything, but she's got like this good heart, and it comes through and really pays off by the end of the movie. And I just want so much more of this. I can't wait to see what they're going to do. I hope everyone goes and sees this, because my theater was virtually empty. It was me, my friend, and then I think like 4 other people, the 2 groups of 2, and so it was really empty and blank. But it could possibly have been because of weather, because it snowed here and people didn't want to go out and the roads were terrible. But the movie's excellent. I definitely recommend going to see it. Again, thank you so much for liking, commenting, subscribing. It all means so much. If you aren't subscribed, definitely subscribe down below. The link's gonna be, it's me like down there. Yeah, click it, help me out, share this, leave a comment, let me know what you thought of the movie. I definitely would like to know what you guys thought, what your favorite part was, what you didn't like. And again, you have a great day. Today, I'm talking about Sonic the Hedgehog. Was it more of this? Or a bit more of this? Let's find out. Welcome back to Featured Films, everybody. My name's Joe. I hope you all liked the special little Sonic-themed intro I did there. I just decided to have a little bit of fun with this episode, because that's what this movie is. Real fun. It's definitely a kid's movie. It's not like super deep, thought-provoking. It's not gonna, win like, best director or anything like that. It's not anything crazy, but it's a fun little kids movie. The plot's not deep or anything, but it is a good time, especially, even for someone like myself who's older, was always into video games. I didn't grow up playing the Sonic games. I was more of a Nintendo guy.
Nope! I'm wrong.
We never actually owned a Sega. We always had a Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and so like Mario and all that was kind of my jam. But I definitely liked the Sonic games whenever I got to go to friends' houses and play it. The music was fun, the games were fast paced, and that's kind of how this movie is. It's 99 minutes long, so it's, quick and to the point. And yeah, they definitely nailed the character. Sonic's played by Ben Schwartz in this movie. You would recognize him from Parks and Rec, House of Lies. He did voice work for the new DuckTales cartoon, as well as Rise of the Ninja Turtles. And he pulled off Sonic really well. It's definitely not, Jaleel White.
Get along, little doggy. The hedgehog is hungry.
Everyone wanted him to come back and play Sonic, like he did back in the 90s for those cartoons. And if you don't know, Jaleel White was Steve Urkel in Family Matters, and he actually did the voice for Sonic. And so people have that like nostalgia for it, and we're hoping he would come back. They didn't bring him in, but Ben Schwartz didn't do bad. He was real fun, quirky. The jokes were like on point. They were just like little plays on words and puns, and he was just quick with everything. It was really good. I enjoyed the little banter he often had with not just the other main character, Tom Wachowski, and he also kind of had this like banter going back and forth with Robotnik. Obviously, they would kind of have little jokes back and forth. He would make fun of what he was wearing, or just like the mustache, or all kinds of stuff. It was really fun. And just so you know, Tom Wachowski is played by James Marsden. You'll know him from X-Men 1, 2, and 3. He was Cyclops in those movies. He was in Westworld. He was also in Dead to Me. And Jim Carrey's the one who's actually playing Dr. Robotnik in this. And, the cartoon and video game portrayal, the proportions of that character are a little unrealistic. But Jim Carrey pulls off this like tall, lanky, just absolute psychotic kind of over the top, just ridiculous version of Dr. Robotnik, and he's really fun. He's kind of back to true form, back from his Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask days, and Jim Carrey, obviously can put on a good show, as we've seen in movies like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Now, early on in the movie, we see Tom, who's again played by James Marsden. We see that character. He's a cop. He's wanting to get out of this small town, actually named Green Hills. Just kind of a little Easter egg for Sonic fans there, with it being named after Green Hill Zone, which is a level in the Sonic games. And he's wanting to get out of this little town, go to a big city. He wants to go to San Francisco and become an actual like street cop, and not just like some small town sheriff. It was actually only 2 people in the police station, him and one other guy, and he basically does everything. And so he's wanting to just kind of change it up, and he's living there. He's got a wife. Her name is Maddie, and she's played by Tika Sumpter, who you may know from Ride Along 1 and 2, Get On Up, and she actually did some voice work for the animated show Final Space. But he's wanting to, just kind of spread his wings, change things up, be a better cop, and that's kind of where we meet him. And then he kind of runs into Sonic, and just all kinds of craziness obviously ensues with Sonic, who is then being chased by Dr. Robotnik. This movie was a lot of fun, but there were definitely things about it that I think could have been improved. The music was so-so. They had, big hit pop songs and stuff, like things that have always been all over the place, and that was kind of nice. But Sonic has always been huge on music, and has a great list of songs that they could have pulled from and just kind of spiced it up. And they only had like, one or two, maybe three little times they dropped in like Sonic music, but it was always like the theme song, and they would have it like kind of mixed in a new way, or like instead of it playing, like from like the video game, they were like playing it on like a piano, that type of deal. So the music could have been improved, but CGI and everything, graphics wise, they improved so much. It definitely had that early controversy where the beginning model, as you saw in my intro, was awful looking. And so they pushed it back. It got delayed almost a year. Like, it was a big deal. They spent a lot of money. They brought in a lot of people from the Sonic video games to come in and change things up. And it definitely paid off. This movie's done really well. The opening weekend, it made more money than the movie Cats did in its entire run. And, I mean, it isn't saying much because Cats was awful, but this movie definitely wasn't bad. This movie is just what it is. It's fun and lighthearted and definitely a kid's movie. But if you're a Sonic, like, diehard and you love the movies and you've been waiting for a Sonic movie or something like this for a long time, this movie does do it justice. Obviously, it could have been improved. There's, little tidbits. The Sonic, like, video games and comics and all that are real deep and have a huge, like, list of characters and mythology and worlds that they could have pulled from. And this definitely didn't really touch much on that. We see some early stuff in the beginning with the intro where we see Sonic's world and everything where he originally came from, and we see some other characters. I'm not going to spoil anything. We see some other things that if you're a real sharp like Sonic fan, you'll recognize who these people are. Like I said, this is definitely a kid's movie. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. It's a good, fun time. Go out with friends and stuff if you're kind of nerdy like myself. As you can see, I'm repping Pikachu today. And yeah, go out, have a good time. It's an hour and a half, so it's hard to justify spending, $10 to $15 to go see it. But if you're a diehard, definitely go see it. If your kid wants to go see it, definitely take them. They're going to have a good time with this movie. Otherwise, maybe wait for it to come out on streaming. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe pay to rent it, something. It's still a fun movie, and you should check it out. I would just like to say thank you, everyone who's been tuning in, liking, sharing, commenting, any kind of support. It all helps so much. As you can see, I finally kind of, over here, updated things and got a little poster and stuff here in the background. I'm going to be putting up more stuff to kind of spice things up for you. And once again, you all have a great day. Today, I'm talking about The Call of the Wild. Was it tame, or did it make the right call? Let's find out. Welcome back to Featured Films. My name is Joe. And again, we're talking about The Call of the Wild. Now, before I do get started, I want to say...
You've been sleeping for 2 days.
That here I'm going to do my review. There's going to be no spoilers or anything. And then at the end, I'll let you know. I'll even leave the timestamp down below to where I'm going to talk about some of the spoilers and things and go over that for those that are interested. Maybe already seen the movie, or even if you haven't seen the movie but you want to know what kind of happens, check that out. This movie was on my radar because it has Harrison Ford in it. You'll obviously know him from, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Blade Runner. He's been around for ages. Everyone knows him. Everyone loves him. And his character's name is John Thornton. He's this old man living up in the Yukon, trying to escape and get away from the world and get away from people, and just kind of lives in solitude. And so I was definitely interested in seeing this movie. When I saw the trailer, I was left a little bit of mixed feelings. It looked good, like it was beautiful, but it didn't quite grab me, and so I was kind of unsure what to think of. Then when it came out initially, there were some mixed reviews, but I gotta say, after seeing it, I really liked it. It does throw you off a little bit because all the animals in the movie are CGI, so it loses a little bit of believability just because of that. Now they look amazing, but you can definitely tell by just facial movement and all the things that they do and how they kind of interact with things. They are CGI and not actual animals. The main character, Buck, who's the dog in the movie, the first half of the movie follows him and his story. Through all this, he ends up getting himself all mixed up into things and eventually comes across Omar Sy's character. His name is Peralt. You'll know Omar Sy. He was in X-Men Days of Future Past and Jurassic World. They meet up. They have this great relationship, interaction. Peralt talks to Buck and all the other, dogs like they're people. He just explains things to them. He's just very casual. And actually, Cara Gee, her character, Francoise, which you'll know Cara Gee from The Expanse, and she was actually in an episode of Letterkenny. But her character, she keeps constantly telling Peralt, hey, they're animals, they can't understand you. But it's very clear that with everything that goes on, the animals do understand, and they communicate pretty well. And eventually, he, through all kinds of circumstances, meets up with Harrison Ford's character, and they, go on this big adventure and things, and it's definitely a man's best friend kind of dog lovers movie. If you love dogs, you love pet movies, go see this. It's so good. I'm a big dog person, and this movie got me. I mean, growing up, I always loved watching Homeward Bound, and this movie kind of fits that vein. It's dog on an adventure, and it's just, really fun. It's really amazing. The story's touching and moving. The things they can do, because it's not an actual dog, it conveys a lot more emotion with the dog's face. And I mean, there's no talking with the animals. They convey a lot of emotion just from body language and things they do, and little whimpers and barks and all kinds of stuff. It's a masterclass in communication, and before long don't even realize that these animals aren't even talking. They're simply communicating. They're getting their message across by looks and snarls and all kinds of stuff. Once Buck ends up meeting or coming across Harrison Ford's character, they end up running into Hal, another character who's played by Dan Stevens, who you would know from Legion, Beauty and the Beast, and also Downton Abbey. And Hal is this super rich, snobby guy and doesn't know how to, run a dog sled or anything, and he's just this complete jerk and abusive to animals, and they have a bit of a clash. His character, at times, I think they could have made him a little bit more of the villain. He's kind of spun that way, but he ends up not having a lot of screen time, and he could have had a lot more, but it's due to them introducing him so late in the movie. Which, I mean, for a book or something, I can completely understand. For a movie, it just feels a little late. There's no real development, and you don't feel that he's as bad as he is, but they try to push it as much as possible, and you end up hating this guy, but they could have done a lot better job of giving him some more time. There are some things I do really like about this movie. Cara Gee, she's actually Ojibwe, which is one of the largest First nation populations in Canada, and she plays like a First Nations character in the movie. So she's very representative of this area, this time frame, the culture that was already there before people started, going out to the Yukon. And it's nice to see that kind of representation, because you don't always get that. You end up getting people like Johnny Depp or Daniel Day-Lewis, who end up playing Native Americans instead of actually, actual, First Nation, Native American people, playing those roles. So it's nice to actually see that representation. Also, like I said, the movie's gorgeous. It is completely stunning. You are always just looking at the scenery. There's just vast shots all the time. Even when there's like action shots, they have big wide shots to where you can see things going on, and it's just a beautiful movie. All the scenery is very captivating, but then there's, again, you kind of lose a little bit of it because of the CGI with the animals. And so at times just animal movement and animals being in the shots kind of pulls you out of it, and you lose a little bit of that movie magic, that believability, to where you're out of it, but you still feel for, everything. And by the end of this movie, I mean, I cried about twice, I'm not going to lie. It's a very touching movie, and movies like this, especially with animals, they're going to get you. If you're, an animal person, this movie will get you 100%. Now, the music is also a nice touch. It's done very well, sets up this kind of adventurous, just epic, feeling that, you're just adventuring out into the unknown, and it really, meshes well with the theme of the movie, as well as just, the scenery and the aesthetic. I would definitely recommend going to see this movie, especially, like I said, if you're an animal person or if you have kids. This is a good family movie. Everyone's going to enjoy it. Kids will enjoy it. Maybe not little kids, because there's a little bit of roughness. There's, some animal cruelty and things that kind of happens that would definitely, maybe little kids might not want to see, or you might not want your kids to see. But it's maybe like 10, 11, 12. Take them to see it. It's a good movie. They'll really enjoy it. It's a fun time for the whole family. All right, now I'm going to get into some spoilers. There's constantly these visions and things that are in the movie, to where Buck, the dog, whenever he's kind of finding this inner animal, this inner beast, because he was, domesticated, he was living at a home for so long, and he had never been out in the wild as an actual animal. And so they keep showing this like giant black wolf with yellow eyes, and it's this very beautiful, very powerful imagery, and I loved seeing it. It was very cool. And then just the mix with Harrison Ford's character and his tragic past, where he had lost his son at this time due to the flu, which seems kind of interesting with all the stuff that's going on currently with flu and coronavirus and things like that. But back then it was far worse. You were far more likely to, if you caught something to where it could, kill you. Now, his son had died young. He was distraught. He mentions in the movie, he just kind of distanced himself and eventually just had to get out of the house and leave. And he left his wife, left everything behind, went, to the Yukon, and because it was his son's dream. And it's very touching. And he goes through this whole thing. And so that's why him and Buck go out on this great adventure out into the wild. And, they go down rivers, and they're seeing all kinds of things. They find this little cabin, which is basically where the end of the movie takes place. And Buck runs into some timber wolves and kind of ends up getting finds a girlfriend and all kinds of stuff, which was a little funny, but it was, I guess, whatever. The climactic scene where Harrison Ford's character John ends up being at the cabin, and Hal, the rich evil guy, shows up because he's searching for gold, and he thinks John knows where this gold is, and so he's hunting him down, trying to get this gold, get revenge, because earlier in the movie, John tried to warn him that if he went out on this river to where the ice was thinning and melting and was going to break, to where if he went out there, he was going to, die and lose all of his dogs and all kinds of things. And he still went out on the river, but he shows up again, later on in the movie, and he's, chasing down, fighting. There's a little wrestling going on, and Hal shoots John, and then, Buck shows up and he's wrestling with him and ends up pushing Hal into the fire of this burning cabin and ends up killing, and, the cabin collapses and kills him. And this is where we have the touching scene with John and Buck brings him this journal and the harmonica, and it's just this really touching scene, and you end up just crying. And this is also like the end of their journey, but it's the end of kind of where Buck has finally found his place. He now has a pack to kind of call his own, and so it's this really it's this really beautiful thing that's going on, to where they eventually show that he has puppies and all kinds of stuff, which it's a nice way to wrap up the movie. Early on in the movie, one thing that definitely got me was I was wondering whatever happened with Buck's original home, the judge and everyone. Like, what did he what did they think happened? Like, did they ever try looking for him? I thought, like, because I had never read the story and I wasn't familiar with it, and it's been a long time since I had seen any of the other previous versions of this movie, and I was wondering if they were ever gonna show up, if Buck was ever going to come back to them or anything. And there was nothing. He just ends up getting abducted and sold, and that's it. They're just never thought of, spoken of ever again, really. One of the other things I did have an issue with, like I said, was with Hal and his character development. He was definitely awful person. But I feel like if they had introduced him a little earlier, stretched out scenes a little bit more, showed him interacting, not just, kind of being whiny, and shown more with, when he was actually in charge of the dogs. Instead, they just showed, like, one quick thing. It was real short, and it didn't quite feel right. Like, the dogs were all exhausted and worn out, and Buck couldn't go on. But it was real weird, because we had just seen Buck constantly running these routes and everything, and I just wanted to see a little bit more, maybe stretch that out, give it another scene or two, just to show all the stuff that they did go through that wore him out so much, just to make it feel a little bit more believable. Because one scene, they're all like, okay, let's go. Oh, we're stuck. Okay. Oh, okay. Now we're not stuck anymore. Let's get the sled going, and they're running, and next thing you know, they're all just exhausted and can't keep going. Like, it just didn't, like, I was left wondering, like, how they got so worn down, and so I would have liked to have seen more of that. Other than that, movie was great. I loved it. I definitely recommend going to see it. It was a fun movie. It was, I would see it again. Since I've seen it once, I'll hold off. I'm going to see it, whenever it comes out on streaming or something. But it's definitely worth spending your money on going to see this movie. Now, I do want to thank you all for, again, liking, commenting, subscribing, all your support. It means so much to me. We're constantly growing. We've now crossed over 200 subscribers. We're just keep going ahead, and I'm super excited for us to continue growing. If there's a movie or show or anything you want me to review, definitely leave a comment down below. And you all have a great day. Welcome to Featured Films, everybody. My name is Joe. Today's going to be a little bit different. Typically, I do movie reviews or TV show reviews and tell you, the pros and cons of that, and then recommend if, you should see it, wait to see it, not bother at all. But today, I did a little bit of an experiment with my YouTube channel. I decided to try to take one of my videos and use YouTube's promote function to actually advertise on YouTube and see if I can get more views and subscribers from it. And as a small YouTube channel, I wanted to share what I found, and maybe go over some interesting things that are there, show you the numbers. I'm going to be very transparent on this, so maybe you guys can take something from this, learn from it, maybe use the same thing or improve upon it to help your channels grow, get more views, get more subscribers, and cross that threshold of the 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch hours, so that way you can get monetized and then keep growing from there. All right, let's get into this here. Okay, so first off, here's my channel. We've got all my videos and everything here. As you can see, pretty much they all get around 100 views or so. Views still kind of trickle in and everything. But there's this outlier here, this one, my Birds of Prey spoiler-free review. It has 822 reviews. And, definitely looking at all the others, you'd be like, wow, how did that one do so good? Well, I took that one. I did an ad on Google ads or with YouTube, which you do if you go to the three little dots by hovering over here. You click on this drop down, you'll see this little guy here that says promote. If you click on that, it's going to pop up and tell you to create an ad. You would click get started. You'll end up going through the process. It'll have you sign up and create an account if you don't have one. Usually it'll just use your Google account. Now, as you can see, this is kind of loading up. Okay, here we go. Well, it just popped up my campaign instead of setting up a new one. So let's see if we can we'll do it on a different one. Get started. Alright, yeah, it looks like it's going to load this time. Alright, so for this, if we were going to do a new ad with Sonic the Hedgehog, it shows you which video. Here you'd put the campaign name. So we'll just call this Sonic. And then down here, you've got how you would want it to show up. You can do this to where it's automatically played beforehand. That's little like skippable ads. Here's a little preview, show you what it looks like on mobile. Here's what it would look like on desktop. Or if you go here and click on this, this is the one I did, it puts a little thumbnail over here in the suggested videos and put your ad there on people's, and if it just pops up, that's an impression. If they actually click on it, you'll get a view from it. This is how it would look like in mobile. Now, you would come down here, you would put the title, you put Sonic okay, and then you just put this. Okay, now the headline would pop up here. It would say, your whatever you put there. So you can actually change it from your video title. So as you see here, it says Sonic the Hedgehog spoiler-free review by Featured Films. But I put in the headline of Sonic the Hedgehog, and it would change it there. Now you could put this and make it, something kind of clickbaity if you want, or you would just put why was Sonic the Hedgehog so bad? Which I don't think it was, but definitely clickbaity would get people. Description 1, it actually puts the first line of the description here where it says add feature films, and then description 2 is right below that. All right. Now, once you do that, you would click continue, and it gives you all kinds of different stuff you can do here, which is, this is kind of where you would kind of make or break your ad. You would put in a city, zip code, state, country, whatever that you want the ad to show in. So I would just type in United States. Click that, and as you can see, the United States is highlighted here on the map, and so the ad would run in the United States. If I wanted it to go run in Canada, and let's put, I don't know, China. So it will advertise this ad all there. Which is, I mean, you can put in pretty much everywhere. I spread out mine originally for the Birds of Prey video to show in multiple countries in Europe, China, the US, Canada, South America. Like, I had it spread all over. So basically, all throughout the day, the ad would be playing, no matter, if it was nighttime, morning, wherever. If people were asleep, in some other part of the world, someone would be getting advertised to. Then, what languages do you speak? Put in English, and then you can select other languages if you want to be like, oh, they would know, French and Chinese, and then because those are languages in Canada or in China. Click continue. Kind of brings this down. This also changes things up. Now, gender I left alone just because if you leave it as unknown, basically that will advertise to people who may not necessarily be logged in, and Google doesn't have their information for, so they don't know if they're male or female. Same with the age. Now with the age, I did uncheck 65 plus and 55 to 64 just because those are incredibly small markets on YouTube, and I didn't want to have my video advertising there. Same with parental status, not a parent, parent or unknown. And then for this, I kept it customer intent as broad as possible. Now, if your video, you're advertising phones, right? This is where you would keep it here, and you would just look for people who would be buying, like consumer electronics. And you would look through here, you would mobile phone accessories, mobile phones, things like that. And then you would just come down here and you would click continue. And then as you can see, it says that's, who it's going to advertise to. Again, I kept it broad so that way if Google doesn't have information on people, it'll still advertise to them. Now, daily budget. This is where it gets, interesting. So I did a daily budget of $2, and I'm going to show you here in a moment what those numbers gave me. One thing I did do is I ran the ad for 5 days, so a total of $10, and then I also used a Google ad promotion they have going on where you can put in this code. It will, once you're creating the campaign and put in all your information, then YouTube would actually match what you put in for your your budget up to $150. So I put in $2 to have it run for 5 days to get a good sample size of how this would work across about a week, and then I had that budget, so it actually doubled it to basically make it $20, even though I only paid $10. Now, let's see here. Let's go back and let's check out the actual numbers. All right. Pop this up, and as you can see, there's a huge spike. And then so, right here, it's kind of growing, getting these views and everything. This is, day 1 and 2 now here. and then just 50, 60 views. We're in day 3, and it's just growing kind of naturally. I'm posting on Facebook, Reddit, sharing to friends, everywhere I can post it, Twitter. And then I decided I'm going to try this experiment. And I put in the ad, and the ad has to go through a review process. Google reviews it. And then, so they reviewed it, and then they finally got back. And then right here is where they approved it. And it was at 106 views at 3:19 p.m. All of a sudden, once it's approved, boom, 1 hour later, 157. It got 51 more views in an hour. It skyrocketed. And it just kept going. I was watching this and just freaking out. Now, I hadn't had any numbers yet at this point to see how well it was doing, how much view time, retention, things like that. But I was just looking at this going, wow. And I'm seeing all these numbers. It's just getting higher and higher and higher and higher. And then right about here is where it kind of starts plateauing. Right in here, actually, on about Wednesday, is where I got a message on my Google Ads campaign to up the budget. And if I up the budget, it would lead to more views. I didn't update or change the budget. And so as you can see, it just kind of becomes this natural arc here and eventually tapers out. Now, this is, let's see here. I stopped it Saturday, right here at 7 o'clock in the morning. I was doing stuff on Saturday. I didn't want to go over my time, so I stopped it then. And as you can see, it just kind of plateaus out. Currently, we've got 821 views, or 822. I believe it just hasn't updated. But as you can see, we went from 106 to 820 views. And I mean, that's, 714 views in a week, which is phenomenal. That's a lot of views, especially for me, for my channel, because I'm so small. I've got, I just crossed 200 subscribers. So let's look here. Audience retention. It was not good. People were watching, and then, right here, it gets to 7 seconds. That's about where my intro starts playing. And apparently my intro lost people. Because, I had people who click and then were not excited. And so over half of them were gone within the first 7 seconds. And then, let's see here. My intro's over right about here. And we're down to 23%. So I lost 75% or more in my intro by the time my intro had ended. And then here it just kind of plays out, and it keeps going and going and going, and it's definitely not good. I got a total about average of 47 seconds average, which is not great. So we got that. You can see the spikes in the views and everything, which is pretty cool. Here it tells you how many views came from the advertising, which was 88.9. So still got about 11% of my views from, just other areas, posting on Facebook and things. And let's see. So here it's telling you 454 impressions, which, let's see here. We'll do this. Still the same thing if you go to lifetime. It doesn't give you the impressions that you get from the ad, which is a little bit of a bummer. But 8.4% impression click-through rate, which is pretty solid for this. But let's go into the ad and see what we've got here. All right. Now, we've got this. Starts out at 0. Again, started on Monday. Boom. Immediately, day 1, we had almost 20,000 impressions, which led to 139 views. Pretty good. The click-through rate isn't great, though. Again, a lot of people don't like clicking on ads, but it's extra. viewers, it's extra people seeing my videos. That's 20,000 possible people seeing it. So I've got to work on my recognizability, people seeing it's me. So I just got to kind of grow my own personal brand, but also the ability for my thumbnail to draw people in. There's a lot of potential there, so I got to work on that. And then the views we get there, this is telling you your average value per click. And then let's see here. Yeah, day 2, almost 30,000, or a little over 30,000 impressions, 200 views. I mean, these numbers are crazy to look at, especially as a small YouTuber. But there are some useful things in here. But this is about how much it spent advertising to people on cell phones. Here's tablets. So just mobile. I spent it was almost a total of, $18.50. And then a little bit here for computers, and then, they break it down otherwise. Impressions, got 70,000 on mobile, 15,000 from tablets, about 500 from computers. And then we had TV screens, so like smartphones or smart TVs. Then we have mobile phones. Again, this is the views. So I got 551 from mobile, 171 from tablets, and 3 from computers. And then this is super helpful. Breaks down the gender and age. If I go just gender, I had a lot more male viewers, 290, as opposed to female, 184. Obviously, the rest were unknown. So that's what I mean by leave it unknown, because you'll still get a lot of views. Those people won't necessarily be signed in, but they'll still see your information. Now, one thing I may change up is to make sure that if I uncheck that unknown, to make sure they are signed in, because then if they're signed in, Google will know if they're male or female, so that will be more likely they're logged in and more likely that they are to subscribe. So that's something I'm going to look at, but I still got views from this. Now, let's go to age. Breaks down the age demographics. Like these again, I blocked out 55 to 64 and 65 plus. And this is why, again, 18 to 24 was my largest poll of views. Then 25 to 34 had 111, 125 from 35 to 44, and 51. This kind of carries through. These, older markets are pretty small. And for what I'm doing, I don't think that it would necessarily cater to them. So I wanted to kind of limit my advertising, and I kept 45 to 54 in case there's like older parents or things, or maybe people that were just interested in seeing something, especially maybe nerdier men, because I advertised Birds of Prey, so I thought maybe they would want to go see a comic book movie. But then let's kind of see the overlap here. So again, men 18 to 24, 106 views in just that section, which is a lot. And I mean, it's kind of astounding. So if I were to do this and I wanted to focus on people where I was getting more of most of my views and things, I would kind of limit it down. I may cut out this 45 to 54 bracket, and I wouldn't want to cut out women altogether, but I mean, if that's something you want to do, that might be something you could look at and advertise to try to grow, short term, but I want to kind of appeal to a diverse audience. And then this little thing is kind of cool. It's a breakdown of, each hour block in that day. It has the days of the week. So it's got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then each hour of the day. And you can tell how many impressions you got, or you can change it up, get clicks, average click CPM. So your cost per million. But if I do clicks, it's not going to show it. Okay. but it'll tell me my cost. So yeah, there's definitely a lot in here. And then on this screen here, over here, if you click on the ads extensions, then ads, we get this here. This is the ad I did. This one was one that I was just kind of testing to see how you would go through and set it up, but I never actually went through and finalized it. This one, though, I did. Tells you the total number of impressions. I had almost 85,000 in just those 5 days, 725 views. Again, my view rate, my average CPV, so cost per view, and then total cost came out to be actually $18.60. So I probably could have let it run a little longer, but that is what it is. For me, it came out to be then $9.30. So I mean, close to that. Now this is cool, the earned views. Earned views is when someone has watched your video, your ad, so your views. So out of the 725, I had 17 people actually click on other videos of mine, which is pretty cool. So it's cool that you can track that and see, if your videos were good enough to where people would want to see other videos of yours. All right, that's just about it here. I just wanted to share all this. Maybe you can find something in this. You can advertise, strategize what you want to do, who you want to advertise to, how much money you want to spend, and make sure to use that promo code, because whatever you put in, it's going to match. So even if you've got $5, it'll make it 10, which will give you, good, value for everything. If you've got even more, you're looking to go big, spend 100 or up to the maximum 150, it's going to, double that. So definitely use this. It's worth your money to do so. I appreciate everything. If you guys can, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you thought. If you plan on using this strategy to actually pay YouTube to advertise for you, or if you are going to stay away from it, or maybe you'll do it in the future. Let me know your thoughts. And again, you all have a great day. Today, I'm talking about My Hero Academia Heroes Rising. Was it a hero or was it a zero? Let's find out. Welcome back to Featured Films. My name's Joe. First thing I want to do is give a quick shout out to Mr. V Movie Reviews. We were talking on another video with Sonic. We got chatting back and forth. He's a real cool guy, does really good movie reviews. I'm going to leave the link down below in the description, as well as at the end of the video. You should check him out. And today we're talking about My Hero Academia Heroes Rising. It's the second My Hero Academia movie, and it takes place right in the middle of Season 4. Right after the overhaul arc. And so you want to make sure you get caught up to that point before you go and check out this movie. But this movie was so good. It was obviously hilarious. The show is known for being goofy and weird, and with the wide array of characters, we get that. And everyone's in it. I don't think there's any character actually left out of this one. So it's really nice to see everyone, working together, doing little combos, doing their hero work, just either, small stuff like Todoroki making ice, or, them actually obviously having to fight villains. In this, we start out, it's right in their summer break, and so they're doing some extra work as heroes on a little island. It's really interesting just to see them kind of working as heroes up to this point where we've, found them in the story. It's a really interesting point because just after the overhaul arc, there's a lot that happened in that. There's a lot of just repercussions from things. There's a lot of weird dynamics between some characters. So it's really fun to have that. And, we even have the League of Villains from the anime making like small appearances. They don't really have anything to do with this. They're not in the movie really very long. Maybe a total of like 2-3 minutes. Like they're not on screen for long at all. Now we've obviously got our main character Izuku Midoriya, played by Justin Briner, who you may actually know. He's done other voice work in like Fire Force and like Borderlands 3. We've got him. We've got Katsuki Bakugo, played by Clifford Chapin. You'll know him. He's done voice work in Attack on Titan and Borderlands 3 as well. So we have those two. They're, they still have their rivalry. They're, competing back and forth, but like kind of working on this. They've got a little bit of teamwork. Their friendship's in a new good spot after they had a big fight there in the anime. And so it's nice to see them working together, and their like teamwork, their combination, their whole relationship in this movie is really nice to see. The music in it, is, pretty quiet, but once it kicks in right towards the end and like the big finale, the music's really good. It's more like soft poppy stuff, but it has this really powerful tone to it that just sets a great epic feel for the finale. 9 and his 3 friends that he has are the main villains in this, and basically their whole thing is just to conquer the world. They're villains. It's what it is. And 9 is actually played by Johnny Young Bosch, who you may know from Power Rangers, or he did voice work in Bleach. Now, this movie is 104 minutes long, so just over an hour and a half. It's pretty quick, to the point, which is nice, but at the same time, since we only get these, anime movies every few years, and we have to wait here in the States even longer than, the Japanese releases, it would be nice if they were a little longer. That's like my only downside, is if they did that, maybe they could stretch it out, get some more development, maybe have more emotional scenes. There are some scenes in this that are very emotional, and they set a good tone and set, some really serious stakes in the movie. But they could probably build it a little bit longer. That's at least what I would like to see. Plus, I love watching this anime, and if it was, 2-3 hours, I wouldn't complain. I love watching it. The characters are all hilarious and awesome, and the fights are always amazing. And like I said, this takes place midway through season 4, so I would, recommend that if you're caught up to that point, to definitely see the movie. If you're not caught up, don't see it yet. Catch up and then see it. The movie's fantastic, but there's a little bit of spoilery things that they drop, and I wouldn't want those to be ruined for you, because the moments in the show are so good that it would be a bit of a bummer that they were spoiled or ruined for you because of this movie. Definitely go see it. It's so fun, so awesome. The fights are probably like one of my favorite in any anime movie. And that's even including Dragon Ball Super Broly. And that movie, the fight scenes were just absurd. But this fight scene is so cool. The finale is so spectacular that, like, I got chills and I just loved it. So catch up if you're not caught up, so that way you can see this movie. If you are caught up, get out there, go see it. It's so fun. Now, I'm going to do this new thing. Last video, I did a little section at the end where I did spoilers, but I'm going to actually just make a second video for spoilers if you want to see that. I'm going to leave the video up here for you to go and click on that to see, and go check out them spoilers. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and you all have a great day. Welcome back to Featured Films, guys. My name is Joe. In this one, we're talking about the spoilers for My Hero Academia Heroes Rising. I loved this movie. It was so cool just having Bakugo and Midoriya just be like the two front guys, and they owned this movie. Like, they were so cool in it. Obviously, the characters are amazing, but just little things with, Midoriya being just a kinder, softer, gentler hero, and just kind of trying to always, keep that smile and save everyone. And then Bakugo is just obviously wild. He's a madman, and he's just constantly looking to fight the villains in this movie. He actually runs into one of the villains, gets in a fight, gets snagged up with these bandages, and the bandages kind of control his body, and he eventually gets so mad he just basically explodes himself. He blows up he blows himself up and frees himself from the bandages, and it destroys one of his little wrist pieces of equipment, like grenade launcher things, whatever they are. Then he actually beats that villain and then flies off to go fight another villain. Like, everyone's like, hey, where are you going? He's like, I'm just going. Like, and he just runs off in typical Bakugo style. Him and Midoriya are going back and forth. They're, double teaming, these villains and they just, like, they can't get an edge on this guy. Nine, he's a little bit like All for One, and he has the ability to absorb and take quirks. He can only have up to 9 of them, though, so hence the name 9. And he's out looking for this specific quirk to basically heal and regenerate himself, because the quirks are, like, slowly kind of attacking and deteriorating him and killing him, and so he's trying to get that so that way he can heal himself and kind of become immortal, and then that way he can take over the world. He's got some pretty serious powers, though. He can just, like, bring down and summon lightning and just strike things. He lays waste to, like, entire cities in moments. It's pretty crazy. He's really powerful. He can also, make these air shields and stop and reflect things, and he's, basically got, like, an impenetrable defense that way. He has this weird, like, skeleton dragon thing that comes out, and he can move these dragons around. He's got finger lasers that shoot out. He's got a lot of cool powers, and definitely, gives some struggle to everyone. He at one point tries to steal Midoriya's quirk, and when he does, he gets a flash of all the previous owners and realizes he can't take the quirk because there's too many of the previous owners, and he doesn't have enough space with his quirks, because I think he has like 6 at the time, so he can't take the quirks, and it just ends up kind of falling flat, and then he just blasts Midoriya away. Bakugo's got cool moments in this too. He, with all of his different moves, obviously he's a great fighter, but there's a scene where there's a little boy in the movie who's talking to Midoriya and kind of apologizing because him and his sister were trying to test the heroes and see if they were actually heroes or if they were just going to ignore problems. And so he was apologizing to Midoriya and told Midoriya to, make sure to apologize to Bakugo. Bakugo's within earshot of everything. He's just sitting there listening, and there's this whole conversation, and by the time it goes back to Bakugo, you see he's kind of like looking over his shoulder listening, and his popsicle actually like is dripping and then like falls apart because he was just waiting for so long. And you see Bakugo, though he's got this harsh exterior and he's just crazy and constantly screaming and how he's going to murder everything, he's actually really thoughtful and caring and wants to be the greatest hero. Now, there are other fights. There's Chimera. He's actually one of the villains that is there with 9, and he's a mix of all these different beasts, and he's crazy powerful. He's got wings, and he looks like a wolf, but he's got like bird talons and lizard tail, and he can breathe fire. Like, he's really, really powerful, and Todoroki and several others are all, going at this guy at the same time, and they can't bring him down. And the first time they all lose this fight against him, and the villains actually retreat and kind of gather up, and then the heroes, they kind of formulate, get together, get a plan, and then the next time they come across Chimera, the same four fight him, and it's really kind of cool because Todoroki gets just this one awesome moment in the movie, which is a little sad because he's such a cool character, but he has this flashback of when Endeavor was talking about increasing the heat in his body to such a critical point and basically trying to teach him how to do prominence burn. And instead he channels that same idea into his ice, and he reaches down and blasts this ice into Chimera's mouth, and it just like fills him, and he just keeps like filling him with ice until he completely freezes over, and there's icicles shooting out of him everywhere. And it was a pretty awesome scene. I really wish that they gave Todoroki more because, again, he's such a cool character. I really do like him, and I'm excited to see where he's going to go, in the manga and anime. Now, other than Chimera, there is the one other villain. I believe her name is Slice, and she has hair that can become blades or needles, and she can shoot them out. And she ends up fighting Tokoyami and Ashido. They have a bit of a fight, and they end up in a cave. She hurts Ashido pretty bad, and so Tokoyami just kind of loses it, and Dark Shadow just goes wild and gets huge and just kind of starts lashing out and attacking. They beat this girl down and end up actually caving in the roof on themselves, and that's where their battle ends. That kind of brings us to the finale, which was so cool. Bakugo and Midoriya just going back and forth. They're just putting everything out there, and it gets to a point to where they're losing and they have nothing else they can do, and they're all out of ideas. The villain is just beating them. He's gone through this transformation. He's got these purple crazy butterfly wings, and he's got this giant fire tornado just summoned on this island, just destroying everything. It's pretty wild. And then Midoriya makes the call, and he actually passes One for All to Bakugo. They reach out, touch each other's fingers because they're, cut and damaged. So Midoriya's DNA gets there, and then they basically both go One for All 100%. And get that cool, spiky haired Super Saiyan-esque transformation. They have electricity all over them. They're just revved up, and they just both look completely awesome. And they both just have, these killer looks, and their eyes, they have this, they're like diamonds, and then they've got electricity all around them. Then they just go all out, and they basically have 2 times the One for All. And they just destroy this guy, and it is an amazing scene. I really, truly loved it. It's visually ridiculous. It blew me away. Just the combos they kept doing, the way that the camera and everything moved, I loved it. It was so cool. If you haven't gone to see the movie, definitely do it. If you did see the movie, let me know what you thought down below. I'm really interested to talk. I loved this movie so much. And as always, like, comment, subscribe. Everything helps. And you all have a great day. Welcome back to Featured Films. My name is Joe. Today we're going to do a bit of a special feature. We're going to talk about how the coronavirus is going to be hitting Hollywood. So how the coronavirus is going to affect everything. And you may be thinking at first, there's no way it could possibly affect anything with Hollywood or movies, but it definitely can. And I'm going to explain how. So over the past 10 years, China has been slowly increasing how much money they've been putting into backing and funding movies. And especially over the past 5 years, we've seen more and more studios, such as the Huayi brothers and Tencent, actually being listed as studios that are producing these pictures. And back in 2012, Dalian Wanda Group actually bought AMC Theaters, the whole movie chain. Now they've even got kind of a hand in theaters, what movies are being shown, and the process of how we go about seeing movies. Like I said, Huayi Brothers and Tencent have been, funding more and more movies. Huayi actually funded Bad Moms, The Foreigner, Molly's Game, Mile 22, Peppermint, and even Happy Time Murders. And Tencent actually funded Warcraft, Wonder Woman, Venom, Kong Skull Island, Bumblebee, Men in Black International. So tons and tons and tons of movies that have been big blockbuster hits have been funded by these companies. And so these companies being shut down, and China being shut down just in general, it really is going to affect how much of that money is going to be getting sent over to Hollywood and what movies are going to be getting funded. Large studios like Disney and Universal, they'll still be able to fund and back whatever movies of theirs they want. But smaller production companies like Lionsgate are going to have a hard time doing that. They've been relying more and more on Chinese funding to make movies. Disney and Universal are still going to be hit because their amusement parks are shut down and people aren't going to be seeing them. So that does affect the company in general, which will have a side effect on the movies and what movies are funded. And probably for a while, they're just going to stick to doing sequels and things that they know are trusted properties to sell movies and get some of that money back, instead of putting out new movies and running risks to possibly start something new. A lot of movies will probably end up getting delayed or even just losing funding altogether. So that's going to hurt, especially smaller studios where there's a lot of indie developers and just smaller budget movies that won't necessarily make $1 billion like Avengers, but, may still make a profit. I mean, Avengers may have made about $2 billion worldwide, but it still made over $600 million of that money in China. And now Japan is shut down, and so that's going to, again, continue to affect amusement parks. And then countries like Iran have been hit really hard and probably will be considering doing a shutdown of the country and the borders as well to kind of contain everything. And if they don't, actually countries like Jordan, which are nearby, may be affected. And Jordan is actually where studios like to go film desert scenes and things. It's where Star Wars actually did a lot of filming. We would actually lose a lot of places where movies go to film, which will affect the types of scenery and things that we see, but also will probably push a lot of studios to doing things in-house with CGI and these new screens that they use in shows like The Mandalorian. Now, with the way that movies work and the funding, we're probably not going to see the effects of this for probably half a year to a year, maybe more, because funding is always given ahead of time or during the process of production, but then during all the editing, post-production stuff, that's kind of what takes so long for the movies to come out. So movies that have already been filmed, recorded, got their backing, those are all still going to be doing fine, and they'll be released in about 6 to 8 months, whereas movies that are going to be still funded and produced later on, and they haven't been filmed yet, then those will be, the most significantly hurt, and that's going to end up pushing things back more and more, and we're going to see less major, big-budget movies out of these small studios like Lionsgate. So movies like Top Gun Maverick aren't going to be hurt, but later on, we could get movies like the Godzilla sequels or new Transformer movies or even Wonder Woman could be affected later on. Now, there is a chance that American companies could kind of jump in, start backing, and kind of take the Chinese model and back movies, make a profit off of them. But American companies haven't been historically known to do that. So we'll see what happens with that. But it's very likely that these movies are going to be hurt, and here, this time next year, movies are going to be delayed or pushed back just to kind of fill the gap, but also because they needed funding from somewhere else to keep the movies going and to actually produce them. I just wanted to say thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate any kind of likes, comments, subscribing, and let me know down below what you guys think, if there's something else with this virus, with the outbreak that could be affecting these movies or the production of them. Definitely let me know. And maybe there's something that I overlooked and we can discuss and kind of keep this going. Thanks for watching, and you have a great day. Today, I'm talking about The Way Back. Is it time for Ben Affleck to get out of the way? Or is he back? Let's find out. Welcome back to Featured Films. My name is Joe. Today, again, we're talking about The Way Back. This movie, when I first went into it, I was thinking it was just going to be just another, like, sports movie and just another basketball, like, kind of semi-inspirational movie. But I was right and wrong. I mean, it is a sports movie and it is definitely inspirational, but it is very deep and powerful. This movie starts off real rough. We just immediately get introduced to the main character, Jack Cunningham, who's played by Ben Affleck, which you'll know Ben Affleck from Good Will Hunting, Argo, Gone Girl, Justice League. Like, he's been in tons of things. And his character is just down on his luck, having a bad time. Life has just hit him hard, and he's not dealing with it very well. We immediately just kind of get set into him, and we see this, and it's a kind of dreary, somber, just opening, and you are kind of laughing at how ridiculous it is, but also you can tell that life's not been good. So you really feel for this character, and Ben Affleck, through the whole movie, puts on a stellar performance. It might be one of his best performances of all time. He's just hurt and angry, and at one point he's speaking to another character and he gets some bad news in this conversation, and you just see the emotions ripple over his face. He goes from angry to confused to hurt, disbelief, and then just acceptance, and everything washes over him. And it's a real close-up shot, and Ben Affleck just kills it in this movie. He's so good. Now, this movie is directed by Gavin O'Connor, who directed Warrior and Pride and Glory, and he's definitely known for having these powerful, emotional movies, and this is no exception. He kills it with the cinematography. He will set a somber tone whenever it's just kind of down and depressed, with it being like darker, and then whenever it's happier, the scenes are brighter, more vibrant, and he can switch from, you know, one scene being exciting and happy to the next just showing panic and pain. Like, he does it so quick and so effortlessly. Now, I will say that the only thing that I think people will have a problem with is that it is an inspirational sports movie, but it's rated R. And it's rated R because there's so much swearing and alcohol use. It's really, like, there's a lot of swearing.
How many threes did Marcus make last year?
A percentage of 26.
Want to know why they're leaving you open? It's because they don't think you could hit the ocean from the beach.
Yo, he just spit facts at your ass, bro.
So, definitely not for everyone. And that's the only things about it that, you know, get it that R rating. But like I said, a lot of swearing, so some people won't go see it, but it's definitely still great to see. Likewise, some people will have a problem with it having a bit of a religious tone. I mean, Jack's character used to go to a Catholic school, so he goes back to that school to start coaching, and there's a lot of just messages and things kind of coming from that definitely have religious tones, and they're kind of talking about God and things like that. So not for everyone in that aspect, but it's not heavy on it. It is in there, but it's not super heavy like you expect, you know, some movies like I Still Believe and stuff like that, to where they're just really heavy-handed on it. So it has some Christian messaging, but it's not too bad. We also have Janina Gavankar, and she's playing Jack's ex-wife, Angela. And you would know Janina from Sleepy Hollow, True Blood, The Morning Show. And her character is this nice balance for Jack. She's, you know, calm and soft-spoken and just trying to go through life and do what everyone's trying to do, you know, find happiness and joy and have a good life. And she has one powerful scene that's so amazing that it just moves you. It's so honest, and it really was breathtaking to see a scene like this in the movie. And this movie is really something special. You'll be watching it, things are going, it's getting better, and you're getting into the movie, getting into the groove of everything, and just as you think it's going to be going great, the movie just kind of comes out of nowhere, hits you with just these powerful scenes that just knock you on your butt. And you just feel all these raw, powerful emotions. It's really amazing how good this movie is. Especially for something that the previews made it look like it was going to be just another sports movie. But you have all kinds of characters on the basketball team, most of the times focused on the most talented player on the team, named Brandon, who's actually played by Brandon Wilson. And he's been in a lot of small parts here and there in different TV shows over the years. He's really young, but you most likely know him from Ray Donovan. But his character Brandon in the movie is the most talented player. He's got this deep love of the game. He's really smart and intelligent and sees the game very different from all the other players in this high school team. And they focus on him. They show his struggles in life with his family, and then just learning to grow and become this strong leader and kind of break out of his shell. I would definitely recommend going to see this movie. It's just raw and powerful and emotional, but it's inspirational and will just show you how you can go about bringing yourself out of the darkest, worst times in life. It's really good. Even my friend who I went to see it with, who's not a typical sports fan or anything like that, really enjoyed the movie. So even if you're not a big sports fan, you will enjoy this movie. It's a great acting, great directing, so spot on. Definitely give this one a watch. Alright everyone, I just want to thank you all so much for liking, commenting, subscribing. It means so much and has helped this channel grow by a ton. I appreciate and love you all, and you have a great day. Today I'm talking about Bloodshot. Should you give this Vin Diesel movie a shot, or is it time for some fresh blood? Let's find out. Welcome back to Featured Films. My name is Joe, and again, we're talking about Bloodshot today. This movie was fun and a solid action movie. I went in with, low to moderate expectations, and it was slightly better than that. It was a little bit better than the trailer made it out to be. This movie's starring Vin Diesel as Ray Garrison, aka Bloodshot. You'll know Vin Diesel from the Fast and Furious movies, Pitch Black and the Riddick movies, Triple X. He's been in all kinds of different stuff. And this movie is funny. The action is high energy and aggressive, with Vin Diesel's character being immortal because of nanobots that heal him. So they're constantly using that to their advantage. They're showing him getting shot full of holes, body parts being shot off, he's being blown up constantly. But the downside of this is that his character ends up feeling kind of like Superman, to where he's just so much stronger and better than everyone else that any kind of stakes that they put in just are immediately kind of washed away because he's so strong. And that is one of the major flaws with this movie, is that they try to set these emotional stakes and then they're just kind of immediately just washed away because of how easily Vin Diesel's character can just basically walk into a gunfight. He's not worried about himself being harmed. He's basically the Terminator, but good. Another issue that I had with this movie is that starting in the second half of the movie, the fights and action scenes start relying more and more on CGI for movement, and it breaks that believability that you try to have in movies. And so you kind of end up getting taken out of that, and you lose a little bit of that movie magic. It had the same problem that Gemini Man had. Obviously, CGI and everything looks good, and it's come so far since back in the day, but now studios are using completely CGI characters, and it's causing a disconnect and takes you out of the just world of these movies, And so at times you're just kind of almost cringing because things are moving weird. You can tell they're clearly not human. The biggest problem I had, though, with the movie is that a lot of the action scenes are really close up and use quick cuts, similar to how they did in movies like The Bourne Identity. And it causes the action, though it's quick and looks powerful and kind of complex and skillful, you're kind of lost in it as just an average viewer. And for some people, I've heard that they get headaches or motion sick because it's so quick and fast cutting. And it's a real shame because some of these scenes are so well shot and beautiful and just kind of cool atmosphere with the action that the other action scenes to where they're just quick paced and quick cuts, it just makes you just wish they just stuck to the other style because you know that they could have done it. But on the bright side, it is funny. It's a pretty hilarious movie. Lamorne Morris is actually playing the character Wilfred Wiggins, and he's like the techie sidekick type of character in movies, and he's also the comedic relief, and he's absolutely hilarious in this. I loved him. You'll know him from New Girl and Game Night. You also have Guy Pearce, who plays Emil Harding, and you'll know him from Iron Man 3, Alien Covenant, and Memento. And his character's this super rich billionaire tech genius who has devised all these different, cybernetic implants and prosthetics and things to give soldiers new life with, new prosthetics and things to give them a little bit of normalcy after they return home from war. He's actually the one who's in charge of the company that is responsible for Vin Diesel's character, getting the nanites. At that company, we also see Eiza Gonzalez's character, KT. You would know her from Baby Driver, Alita Battle Angel, Hobbs and Shaw, also from Dusk Till Dawn, the TV series. She's been in a lot of different things. She's a real up-and-coming actress in Hollywood, and she's actually been acting since she's been real young on telenovelas. She's this cool, badass character who just immediately kind of takes a liking to Vin Diesel's character and is his first friend once he's there at the company where he gets the nanites. All that said, the movie's enjoyable, but it's not the best. I would definitely wait for it. Totally worth waiting to stream this or maybe rent it out of the Redbox or something. It's not worth spending, the money to go to the theater to go see it, but it is definitely worth seeing once you can for cheap if you're a big action movie person. And I just want to say thank you all so much for liking, commenting, subscribing. Make sure to leave a comment down below letting me know what you thought of the movie if you did see it, or let me know what other movies you would like me to see so that way I can review it and let you guys know what I think about it. Thank you again for watching, and you have a great day. Today I'm talking about Turnabout. What's this movie even about? Should you give it a turn? Let's find out. Welcome back to Featured Films. My name's Joe, and today we're talking about Turnabout. Now, I do want to be completely transparent here. I want to be completely honest because I want you guys to know that my opinion is always my opinion and in no way has been bought or paid for by anyone. I was contacted by a distribution company, TMA Releasing. They're part of a company called The Movie Agency, and they asked me to watch and review this movie. This is not a sponsored review in any way. I was given a screener link and was able to see this movie sooner than normal so that way I could review it and get word out on the movie so that way all of you can decide if you want to see the movie or not. I do want to thank the Movie Agency and TMA Releasing for the opportunity and for contacting me. Now, this movie is a crime thriller, and it starts off just as mysterious as it ends. It is an indie movie, so a lot of effort is put into cinematography and lighting, and I really liked a lot of the shots in this movie. They just had a really cool look to them. The first scene was even a cool shot where the character Billy Kane, who's played by George Catt, gets out of a car and walks under a bridge or overpass, and it just really has this cool framing to it, and the lighting's really well done and kind of starts to set up this mysterious tone. And you would know George Catt from The Irishman, Blind Spot, and Unforgettable. The movie's set sometime in the 90s, and you can kind of tell because there's payphones, VHS tapes, BlackBerry phones. Like, it's got a lot of stuff in there, including the style that's very 90s. At the beginning of the movie, Billy's actually walking, and he comes across a payphone, and he uses the payphone to make a call because he doesn't have a cell phone, obviously, because this is back in the 90s before cell phones were widely spread everywhere. He actually ends up calling his old high school friend Perry Hayes, who's played by Waylon Payne. You would know Waylon Payne from Waiting for the Miracle to Come and Walk the Line. From the moment that the movie begins, Billy ends up calling his friend Perry right in the first couple minutes, and Perry in the middle of the night gets up and goes to help his old high school friend out, and things just kick off immediately. Billy ends up dragging Perry through his crazy life, and it's completely just unknown to Perry, who's kind of a straight-laced, just a normal, average family man. As things are going, they end up coming across Peter Green's character, Leo, who actually knows Billy, and they have some prior history. Now, you'll recognize Peter Green from The Mask, Pulp Fiction, Blue Streak. He was in all kinds of movies in the 90s. And after our two main characters end up running into Leo, they come across two girls that are played by Rosebud Baker and Sarah Player. Rosebud plays a character named Sherry. You'll know Rosebud from TV shows like Girls Who Like Boys, as well as Quick and Dirty. And Sarah Player plays a character named Candy, and you would know her from various episodes of FBI, Blue Bloods, as well as Law & Order Special Victims Unit. As the movie goes, there's slowly a plot that kind of unfolds and is going on, and they drop little pieces and hints here and there of things, and you don't really catch on until the very end of the movie, when it all kind of finally comes to, and you start putting all the pieces together in your head as the characters are putting things together, and it's a nice thriller movie. I always enjoy these movies because I like to try to solve these puzzles, figure out what's going on. And in this one, I was a little right and a little wrong. I was closer to right than I was wrong. And hopefully if you watch it, you can actually let me know in the comments what you thought. I would totally like to, see if you got it right, got it more right than I did, or less right, and kind of see if you liked how things went in the movie. Now, this movie, I did enjoy watching it. It's not the best movie I've ever seen, but it is a nice, small-budget indie movie that, especially if you like indie psychological thrillers, this is a good one for you to watch. But this movie is definitely not for everyone, especially with the amount of drugs and alcohol and things like that. It's a very mature theme, which definitely isn't for everyone. I mean, I wouldn't let my grandma watch this. But I do recommend seeing it, and if you want to check it out, you can see it at this link here if you're outside of North America, and if you are in North America, you can actually see it at this link. So I'll put both those down in the description below for you to grab those, and soon you'll be able to stream it on Abad, FilmZ, and FilmDo if you have any of the apps, so keep an eye out for those. You can also buy the DVD through Amazon and other major US retailers. Once again, I want to thank the movie agency and TMA Releasing for contacting me, letting me see this and review this ahead of time. And I want to thank all of you for checking out my videos, liking, commenting, subscribing. And you all have a great day.